All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. As always, today I've got some of my good friends here. We're going to talk about combat sports, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Two of my good old time friends here, Moose and Luke. They've been on before, but we've also got a special guest today, Ryan Dean from the Dangerous World podcast. And Ryan and I both are regular guests on the Monday Night Master Debaters on the Great Deception podcast. It's a great show there. You should check it out if you never have. It's a bit of a relief for me to do these types of episodes because many of our episodes are quite heavy, quite information heavy. You know, people need to take notes and study them, basically. We're going over very important topics in detail. And this is not one of those episodes. This is a more casual episode. Although there are some health implications to combat sports, obviously, and we are going to touch on them. I do also want to focus here on the good. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to go through it. And you've probably heard of some of the main bad things like traumatic brain injuries and weight cutting. We're going to touch on those. There's also some more. And I've even got a secret one that I'm going to bring up later that most of you guys in the audience and on the panel probably have not considered before. And it's not nutrition. So stick around for that. And fair warning here, I can't stop these guys from swearing, so there will be cursing in this episode. And we're going to call Ryan Dean. We're going to call him by his last name, Dean, today. It's confusing having two Ryans here. When I was growing up, there was so many Ryans that nobody got to actually be called Ryan. We all had to be called by our last name. So that's what it's going to be like today. And appreciate you joining us here, Ryan. I invited you on to get your input because you actually work for a
I'd call it a promotion.
promotion.
Yeah, BKFC. It's
Oh, no way.
yeah, man. Yeah,
Oh, no way. Okay. My boy was oh, that's crazy. Okay. We'll get into that after. But my boy is actually a lightweight champion in BKFC.
no way.
Yeah, Amir Bani.
Maybe
He,
that's a different promotion.
I
Possibly.
are you talking about the bare knuckle?
Yeah, but there's a couple different ones. There's BKB.
It
There's
could be a different one. It could be, but that's awesome. That's so fucking awesome.
it's
How'd
great.
you get into that?
To be honest, I kind of fell into it. Like it
Dude.
was I was, believe it or not, and Ryan would believe this more than you guys. I was drinking. I was watching. I'm always drinking a little bit. Not right now. It's a little early for me to be starting, but watching a BKFC event, I was betting on it, and just a thought popped in my head. What? Maybe they're hiring. You know what I mean? Let me check this out. Let me see. I go to their contact page, and sure enough, they're hiring for a customer service type role. And get in there, get my foot in the door, and now I'm getting to do fun stuff like enter fighter stats and fighter information. And I mean, it's the first job I've ever enjoyed in my life. I'm not someone like Ryan that's very very lucky and hardworking. I hate using that word luck when someone starts a business and runs it, but fortunate maybe to have found something that you really enjoyed, and it seems like you did it fairly early in life. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I've always just worked horrible jobs that I've hated. So it's fun to be in an industry that you enjoy, man. And you are in the industry from a different perspective, obviously
But
participating.
that's so awesome. You're like, you know what? Let me see if I could get into this. You pulled the trigger and boom, there it was. That's sick, man. That's
Yeah,
so rad.
I feel really, really fortunate to do that.
That's awesome, man.
But thanks.
So Moose here is actually the only real fighter on the panel, and uh, maybe he doesn't want to toot his own horn, so I'll do it for him. He's quite a good fighter, to be honest. His brother is a pretty tough guy, and I think he beat him up a lot, and that made him a quite tough guy. I know Moose would throw me in a triangle in 3 seconds flat. I'd be tapping by the fourth second, and that's happened before. So he's got the inside insight. And Luke was involved in combat sports, but interestingly, Luke, last time we did this, we talked about tattoos, and you mentioned that your life sort of went downhill when you got out of combat sports.
Yeah, it gave me an out, and it was discipline and structure to keep me off of the streets and doing rebellious shit. Obviously, as soon as I stopped the sports, I just got into anything and everything. And anything that I do, I've usually take it to 1,000. So it's all in or nothing. So as soon as I stopped, I left martial arts because I got bored because I stopped doing competitions and it was the same fucking shit every day, katas and this and that. And when you're in the ages of like 10 to 16, 17, I'm like,
Gotta fight,
I'm not
boy.
using this. I don't want to fucking do it anymore, right? Because I actually generally like inside of me, and as a male with lots of testosterone, I want to fucking hit people. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, 100%.
Not to like hurt them. Like I'll hit them and hurt them, but then I'll give them a hug after, right? That's kind of how I am. But I want to use the weapons that I had. So I sort of left, and then me being crazy as I am, sort of spiraled my life in a negative way. And then just before we started recording, I was just asking Moose, like, do you think of all the years that you've done it, all the structure and discipline that you've put into martial arts, it's transferred to the other avenues of your life outside of that world?
Yeah, and also another thing it helped me do was like, dude, I know how to learn. Does that make sense? Like, I don't feel like I had the ability to like digest information and then relay it as good as I could as when I started coaching. Like being able to take something and show somebody else, not only does it like refine how good you get at something, but it kind of makes you hyper analyze every aspect of stuff. So you kind of start bringing that into everything. It helped me like become a like overall, I think the best thing it helped me do is become a better learner. So I learned how to structure my life. I learned how to do all these things.
I'll give you an example. I'm just going to go out on a limb here, but now you started your own combat center, your jiu-jitsu center. Do you think like they're probably all the same building blocks? So like from what you've learned in martial arts to get to the achievement that you are now, probably helped you a lot to start your business and achieve new goals there. Different ways, but same kind of way of building it there, right? Like putting all of your efforts into it,
Yeah.
helping
Yeah.
you know
And
what I mean?
I think the other thing is too, like when like I don't have many like other avenues. Like if you spend a lot of time doing one thing, there's really like I'm like, all right, man. I'm like, I it's either like I teach people how to fight or become like a cop or a security guard again, like a bouncer. And I like being a bouncer is a nightmare. And I'm way too anti-authority to be a cop. So like that doesn't make any sense for me. Like, you know what I mean? The only other avenue is like I could teach people what I know and help people who are in the same situation as me. So that's what like I think a lot of the opening of school kind of is what I wanted to do. I wanted to like help people who had the same demons I had, give them a place where they could be positive. And then also it's like it's obviously easier to mold young people than to fix broken adults. So like being a positive influence in young people's life is also super important to me. Like teaching, I didn't think I'd like teaching kids anything because I've always I it's hard for me not to swear. You guys know me long enough. You know how I talk. It's weird to adjust being around kids, but it's so like you don't even think about it when you're around something so positive because I'm trying to like give these people structure and like help them with something in their life. You could see that for me, martial arts gave me confidence, it gave me discipline, it gave me a lot. So I want to give the same thing that I got to people. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the only thing I can offer with like doing martial arts for 16 years. You're either a pro fighter or you got to go teach because I don't really know any other avenues to use what I've learned for like the or what I've kind of like mastered for like 60. I didn't go to post secondary. I went to like in jiu-jitsu classes. Like
Yeah.
so I had to make something work with that. Like I think that's like kind of forced my hand in that department. Not having like a lot of other side things. I was just kind of like blinders on fighting. And um yeah, so like part of it is that I really gave myself no option. And then two is like it's kind of rewarding actually helping people and then like getting that positive love back from
What do you
people.
mean,
You know what I
kind
mean?
of? It's the most rewarding thing in
It
the world.
truly is the most. I don't want to be a like a dick, but it is nice when people are like, man, that like this helps. Like, da-da-da-da. Like it just it is super it's super rewarding and super fulfilling and it gives me more of a reason to wake up super early and go do like why the hell do I want to wake up at 6:30 to go teach four people jujitsu but they need it more than I do. Like, you know what I mean? Like but I'll do it just because it's like it's helping me and helping them, but it's like more because I feel like if I'm not there I'm letting these people down. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
giving's better than getting, buddy, all the time. Like if you
yeah,
can, it's the most satisfying thing.
I
100%.
agree.
Too, just by going off what Moose is saying there, helping people and being there for people in situations like this, man. And we were going down a really good path before we started recording here too, talking about like the good things about martial arts and combat sports in general. But I don't know if I can speak for everyone, but if you corner someone, if you're in someone's corner during a fight, you're almost just as nervous as if you were stepping in there yourself.
I'm worse. I'm way worse. I'm
Yeah.
way worse. If it's somebody I know and I'm cornering them in a fight, I'm like fucking, oh my God, like let's go, buddy. It's like I'd rather be in there and be the guy fighting than watching if especially it's like a close friend. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of rough. But if it's like I've been in dudes' camps that I don't like really fuck with, but like the not like they're not friends, but we're not close like that. But I've had close friends fight, and it's devastating. Like it's devastating. You're on the edge of your seat, man. Like, like please
Then when
God,
they do something well, right, or if they end up winning, it's just like you're screaming your head off, man. I got to
dude.
corner a friend of mine in a boxing match once, and it was just the adrenaline I felt. It's more than like, I've been in street fights here and there, in high school and college and years and stuff like that, but the adrenaline you feel just being in the corner of somebody like that is unreal. And I mean, that's got to be good for you. You know what I mean? Like just getting that adrenaline dump and all those endorphins, man. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, and then also it's like with anything though, like that it helps you deal with that adrenaline too, because like the first time a guy goes skydiving, he's shaken. By the 20th time, this guy's on a snowboard doing backflips. You know what I mean? So it's like it helps you face that adrenaline as well and kind of be like calm in the storm. But it's something you have to, something a lot of people don't even get to feel is like, you know what I mean? Just being in a fight or even seeing that firsthand, experiencing somebody that going in there and slugging it out. It's a lot, man. Like it's a lot.
Yeah.
A
Hey,
lot of people might not think of fighting as being a positive thing. I know a lot of the audience will understand this because of that discipline thing, but I kind of just want to emphasize how important this is, at least in what I've watched Moose do over the last 18 years that I've known him. The camaraderie, the positiveness of being a part of something that is not drugs, alcohol, or graffiti in our case. It's a very negative world, very destructive world is graffiti. So when I met Moose, I said this on our tattoo episode, Moose was one of the only people that wanted to hang out with me when I quit doing drugs. And so he was actually a very positive influence on me. And he's always been a positive personality. And, I always enjoyed having him around and stuff. A lot of my friends were, losers kind of, or, outright bad people, and they weren't trying to be good people. And so I needed some good people around me, and Moose was definitely one of them. But then and he was still fighting sort of in that time. He was coming up training, but then I watched him move into the city and stop fighting, stop participating in jujitsu. And I remember going to visit you, Moose, and we went out a couple of those nights, and I'm like, Moose, do you live like this all the time? We're doing
Oh,
doing
help me.
graffiti and doing drugs and stuff. You do this all this is your lifestyle? And I'm like, bro, this is not good.
Yeah.
But then now in the last several years, you've gotten back into fighting. You mentioned on the tattoo episode that, some of your friends died and stuff, and, your life was kind of, it was not good. I felt like Moose deserves better than this, but then you got back into fighting, and it's very good to see you look better, you sound better. I think your life is better overall. How would you say that this is translated into the rest of your life?
Like we were saying previously, like again, like Luke's kind of asked this question earlier, and it was just like the structure, the discipline, the positive. Like Brent, it's like if you're hanging out with a bunch of people that are going and getting smoothies instead of fentanyl, like you know what I mean? It's a pretty cut and dry line in the sand. You're like, okay, well, this is clearly a lot more positive than my junkie friends are. So like that immediately having a group, and then it's monkey see, monkey do, right? Like, can I? It's cool to have a bunch of people over to a drug den when they're all junkies, like you know what I mean. But could I invite six regular people over to my house and be like, "You guys want to watch a UFC fight with me?" And they come into a bombed out, like decrepit place. Like you kind of want to also live what you're doing, right? It's okay to be in an atmosphere that looks like a junkie's if you are a junkie. You know what I mean? So like if once you start making more positive changes in your life, they honestly just kind of come with it. You know what I mean? Like dealing with responsibility, like being responsible, right? Man, taking on the things you need to do, all these things are kind of something you have to deal with when you're training. Like you're gonna have to go against people you don't want to go up against. There's days where you don't want to train, but you have to be in there. Like it's just like I found that I need something with a solid foundation, right? Like you go into the place, it's consistent and it's consistently good, right?
If you're a teacher at all, so you as a student going into your jujitsu classes, if your teacher's having a bad day, they have to not show it as much as possible. Right? They have to wipe their problems away. If I'm
I
having a
have
bad day and I'm also teaching health to people, it's basically what I do. I can't show that. I have to put on a positive front. But the thing is, when you put on that smile, when you put on that energy, it genuinely takes away
I
your
was
own
just I was
concerns.
just gonna say that. Like, I'm not sure if you've ever like experienced this, but like I've done this like literally last week. I didn't want to go in and teach kids. I was like, oh fuck. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm kind of like not feeling it. Whatever. Get in there. And the moment I start smiling and joking around these kids, my day's 100 times better. So I might have gone in there with the fake smile, but I left with the genuine one,
Mhm.
which was like
It's like dragging yourself into the gym too. You don't want to go, but
100%, man.
you
100%.
start to feel better, and then you're pumped by the end of it, and you don't want to leave.
Yeah, yeah. And then most of the time it's like I think that reservation in your head is just something that people I don't know where it even comes from, but a lot of people like if you're having a bad day, you can bring it into things that genuinely bring you a good like the enjoyment that you need. But you can psych yourself out before you get there. You know what I mean? Like but if you actually just drag yourself to it and pull the trigger, the result is you kind of shake off that negative headspace.
There's a fantastic book I like. It's called Resisting Happiness. And sort of the thesis is that we naturally resist all of the things that are good for us. All of the things that we
Oh
know
yeah.
are going to improve our life or know are going to lead to some outcome that we want. There's a natural resistance to that. So a big part of life and gaining happiness is breaking through that resistance. It's uncomfortable to go and ask the girl out. You have to face that resistance and overcome it, and you will be glad that you did. Hopefully, she says yes. But even if she didn't, you learn and whatever. You got to overcome this resistance, this resisting happiness thing. And a lot of people will face that wall of resistance and just not ever try to cross it and end up living a pretty miserable life. So, Ryan, you as a fan, and I think we're all fans here as well. UFC was basically the only sport I ever did watch. As someone who doesn't participate in it, well, you now kind of work in it, but what do you get out of it? You just told me before we started recording how pumped you were for tonight's fight.
Mhm. Yeah, man, it's a whole day for me on Saturday, and then obviously working the events is a blast too. Getting to and I just hope that everyone out there can get into a job where they enjoy it, right? It's a game changer for people. Instead of like the first thought that you have when you're about to start your day job is fuck, I got to do this again, right? Instead of having that, you're excited to get there. So first of all, I just want to say that. Um, yeah, for me, man, I look forward to it all week. And the structure that it gives to these guys that can't be understated. I think that's first and foremost is the athletes, the ones that are going out there. And I mean, especially at this UFC level, dude, these are like modern day gladiators, right? Now there's some point fighters. I think there's a difference between a fighter and a martial artist, and I kind of prefer the fighters, right? Like maybe they don't lean into the teachings of martial arts as much or whatever, but they're violent and they go out there and they look for a knockout. Like guys like Justin Gaethje, this guy
Yeah.
Charles Oliveira, right? I mean, these dudes are
But they are
wild.
deadly martial artists. Like that's the thing, though.
Sure.
They are super skilled at what they do. Like Gaethje could put anybody on his butt, but chooses not to. That man's 1-2 low leg kick combo is also just as devastating as probably getting wrestled by the boy. You know what I mean? And Chucky Olives, that boy is one of the most technical snipers of all time. So it's like the thing is, it's like I like the mix. I like that you're here to fight and that you're technical. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's what makes a good fighter. It's like you're the best of both worlds. But you do get some dudes that come out there and just straight bang. Like who am I trying to think of that's like okay, you get a lot of it in the heavyweight division where you'll get like uh Derek
Kirk
Lewis
Lewis. Yeah.
and then a bunch of guys who can like what's Shoe Boy's name? Why am I not blanking on
Oh,
Shuey?
Tuivasa?
Tai Tuivasa. So you got guys who are can be underskilled in their martial arts, but them boys can bang. You don't want to run into any of those boys at the bar. Like I'm a buck 85 on a good day. You think I want to walk into Derek Lewis
Yeah.
with all the training I got? That guy could be off the street. I'm like, holy, we're signed up for a war, boy. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing, and you're exactly saying the same thing I'm trying to say here, which is, I prefer those bangers, those dudes that go out there and just throw hands. Obviously, you have to have some set of skills to get to the dance in the first place, right?
The top of the dance, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, obviously, the amateur and regional scenes, I mean, there's some cans out there, right?
Yeah.
But just for me, like I said, there's a difference in my head, at least, between like a fighter and a mixed martial artist, right? And maybe we can agree to disagree or whatever, but I'm thinking like Israel Adesanya and Sean Strickland, right?
Dude, 100%. You got point fighter technical guys that come from like a competition sport, like a
Yeah.
kickboxing, where you can point it out. Some motherfuckers want to take your head off. They don't come from that. Like, so I agree with exactly what you're saying. There are like that like point, especially if it's like a specific sport. You know what I mean? Like a hyper specific. Like these guys come like Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy can karate point fight for 5 rounds, no problem.
Yeah.
Who the fuck wants to see that? Like, you know what I mean? I'd rather go in there and see something like a guy who came to scrap. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I agree with you 100%. That is as a real line in the sand between, like, you know what I mean? There's just like tough motherfuckers that learn to fight,
Mhm.
and they and like Strickland, like all those guys that have that are the guys who come from like I know that because it comes from a place of pain where you want other motherfuckers to feel what you feel, so that you're like, I'm knocking your block off, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, and then you have guys who have spent their entire life getting really good at kickboxing and karate, and their parents were driving them there, and this and that, and you know what I mean? You can be good, but you probably don't have that same killer edge that the other guy does. And
Well,
we
yeah,
saw
we
that.
saw that recently, right?
Yeah,
And,
right.
and that's what I find to be so interesting. Guys like Adesanya, he grew up very wealthy, and you're not gonna have the same. He can have all the talent in the world, right? And then you think about somebody like Anderson Silva, who Israel Adesanya beat, but Anderson Silva comes from a tough background, man.
But that wasn't a good fight, man. That Anderson fucking that the guy was 100 years old, and the whole fight, like they were kind of like, but again, he could do that with a guy like that because they're both trying to play a kickboxing game,
Mhm.
right? The moment it turned into a fucking fight, and I don't care about your kickboxing. I'm gonna pressure you forward. I'm gonna bang you out. We're gonna make this a fight. What happened? Buddy buckled. But the second, and you know what I really like? Do you remember the Sean and Adesanya fight? Second round, Sean's corner was like, "You're letting this fucking guy snake charm you. Stop letting this guy snake charm." And then he put the gas back on 3, 4, and 5. I was like, dude, that's exactly what you need to do. You can't let a guy like that get comfortable and start point fighting. They work in that zone, like, you know what I mean? Or as soon as they can start flowing and hitting shots, and it's more like a sparring match, you're cooked. You're not going to win a point fight against that guy. But as soon as it turned into a fight, he was not with it. He didn't want to fight him at all. Like, you saw it.
Back to what Ryan was talking about, what does it do for the fan? It gives you something to be excited about, man. This is a year-round sport. It's not like, basketball, football. I'm a big believer that we need distractions, healthy distractions, but distractions nonetheless. And that's what sports are for so many people, man. I also love gambling on it, like that can turn into a huge problem for people. But it's also like it's kind of like a secondary income for me, like once you get it down and you kind of have your system, it's a rush, man. Like I feel sometimes like I'm in there fighting just because I want one dude to win so bad because I'm
That
invested.
parlay needs to hit, man. You got it.
Exactly. man.
I think Luke here might be our resident gambling expert here. I think just because we have so many younger viewers, I think we should just say if you are going to gamble, you should gamble responsibly. If I go to the casino with $20, I expect to spend that $20 and lose it, and not spending $20 I don't have. I can afford to lose it, and I'm expecting to lose it, to be honest. Luke, what do you think on the gambling aspect of this?
I love it. If I'm not betting on it, I'm not watching it. Like 100%. Like
So,
what's the
so it
fuck?
gets you invested?
100%. Like why would I like I'm not wasting my time watching this unless I'm betting on it. Like for me, everything's a hustle, right? So yeah, Dean's 100% correct. It could turn into a problem. And I've done some fucking nasty, like thousands of dollar bets on UFC, and sometimes you win fucking thousands, and sometimes you lose. But
bro.
that's the price you pay. But if you want to win big, you got to bet big.
I
But
I don't got the cojones for that, man. I don't got the nuts
for
for
me, it's like the other form of what we were talking about last
it.
episode about addictions, right? Like it makes me feel alive. You know what I
Oh, yeah.
mean? And I like fighting. So watching fighting and betting is more exhilarating than watching any sport. You know what I mean? Because
Let
it's
me
Dude.
tell you.
so volatile, man.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Luke, but let me tell you about this heartbreaker that happened to me when we last week we had Ilya Taporia versus
Great card.
Xander Volkanovski, right? And dude, I bet I had $15 that I wanted to throw down on this, and I was like, I wasn't doing good all night. Basically had $100, lost all of it because it was a wild card. Every single favorite won every fight, right? Until we get to the main event, and I throw down $15. And I'm like, I'm just gonna shoot for the moon here and see what happens. You know what I mean? And I was thinking about, I'm like, what's gonna happen? I think Ilya is gonna win this. I think he's gonna knock him out in the second round. I think it's gonna happen in the third minute. So I throw $15 down. $15 would have turned into 550, but it
Nice.
happens at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So it happens in technically the fourth minute. So I missed this 32 seconds. And those kinds of things, man.
That's the shit.
Sad.
Because I was gonna show the parlay, man. I missed 1 out of 9, and I was like, wanted to throw the phone at the TV. I was like, but
Yeah.
I don't like honestly. 15 is like a max bet I'll ever make. Like speaking, like I hear Luke talk about the numbers he drops. Anything with more than 1-0, I'm already shitting. Like there's no way, bro.
Yo, guys, let's make it clear. Right now, I don't do that. But I'm telling you, when I did do it, and you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't say I'm consistently a loser. It's when you get really stupid about it, when you chase losses, that's when you lose. If like you guys are structured, right? You know, this is my limit, play within it. For me, it's like if I lose 100, we're going right for 1,000 when I wasn't even. Because you know what I mean? Because I'm like, you know what? The odds of me losing this many times, because I'm a numbers guy, and it does work. Like, you know, the high rolling gambler guys, when they lose, they might lose 50K before they win 100. But just because
Yeah.
now they're up 50 grand profit, but they had to dump in 50K to get it. And you see that a lot. It's just a law of averages, right? With us, we're hoping to put $1 and win fucking 10 million, which is like the odds of that is winning the lottery, right? Like it's not happening.
Well,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why I do DraftKings Fantasy. That those $3 pools where you can win,
Yeah.
10 grand off $3. I throw a couple of lineups in there too, and that's a blast too. I don't know if you'd mess with fantasy.
Every card, I'll put in one shot in the dark parlay where I think like I'm a fortune teller, where I'm like, all right, knockout, second round, 230. I'll be like, this fight's not going the distance. And I try and call everything. And I'm like, okay, $1, 3.5 million. We got this.
You have to though. What happens if you did win, right?
Oh, buddy, I'm out of here. You guys
Yo,
ain't seeing my ass again.
I wanted to ask you, for the industry that you work in, what do you do? Do you promote fights? Do you deal with all the sporting good or all the equipment, or do you work with the guys? Like, what do you do in your industry?
So what I do, I had us, initially gotten the job to do mostly like customer service roles, but there's not much customer service that needs to be done when it's not fight night. So what I get to do now is super fun. Like throughout the week, I write a lot of the bios for the fighters, right?
Sick.
Which I love doing. I got to do a lot of tape study. There's this thing that we send out that was like a creation of my own. We call it Knuckle Up News, and it's basically almost like a newsletter before every event. So like I'll break down the fights, kind of give my opinion, but since I work there, and I put a disclaimer on there, like all these are just opinions from the writer, not from BKFC itself. And I'll kind of like do almost a betting guide type thing, right? So that's like the main thing that I do. I actually have to, when we're done with this, I'm going to finish up the one that we're doing for the Canadian event, which is on March 2nd. First ever event for BKFC in Canada. It's like a history making event.
Where in Canada is it?
It is in Edmonton.
Oh, okay. We don't like Edmonton.
They ain't letting that fly in an Ontario commission.
Yo,
bro.
send me
It's the
the
wackest
bets.
fucking
Buddy.
commission
Send me the bets.
there ever been in your life. But here's another question. And actually continue your thought, because I gotta remember the BKFC card that I'm thinking about, where every freaking underdog won and I was like, "There's no way."
Yeah.
I was like, "That was the one that Spider-Man was on, that fucking Cuban motherfucker,
By the way,
Spider-Man Freddy."
we don't actually hate Edmonton. I'm just kind of kidding. That's just the other side of the country.
No,
Just
I know.
for
I'm
the
sure
Alberta people.
Canadians have the reputation of being very nice people, so I'm sure that you guys, you guys all get along with your fellow Canadians as long as they're not super Trudeau supporters. I'm sure.
If
But
anything, the Albertans are almost too nice.
Really?
Yeah,
yeah,
most of the rest of the country doesn't like us Toronto people. They know we're
no,
jerks.
it's only fucking Quebec, and Quebec, they're like their own little world over there where they have no idea what. Like honestly, like that's like
I
they
don't know,
speak
man.
French, bro.
I
That's
live up
enough.
north. I live up north in Ontario, the same province, which is a massive province, by the way. It's bigger than Texas and Wyoming combined. It's huge. A lot of Ontarians don't know how big it is. I live way up north. You don't really want to tell people you're from Toronto. It's not a
Hmm.
good thing.
Yeah, it's like saying that you're from California here in Arizona. People
Exactly.
aren't into it. And Luke, I got to go back to one thing you said about giving you the bets. I can't do that, dude. Like I literally signed an NDA. I don't give anybody. I do not shit where I eat when it comes to that stuff because, like I said, it's the first damn job I've ever enjoyed in my life that I've had. But you can go on there. You can read what I write if you're into it, and you can come to the conclusion if you kind of read between the lines, right? I'm not trying to give hints. I give the positives and negatives for both fighter, and it's usually a pretty quick breakdown. I say where I think the line should be, the gambling line, and if it's far off of that, I just recommend that people look into that further. You know what I mean? That's essentially what I do.
Is this are these all televised events?
Yeah, so most of the time, like we do them on, it's on all the like Roku's, Amazon, all that stuff, and then it's on a lot of the events like this one in Canada is going to be free on YouTube, so you can go and check it out on YouTube. But just type in BKFC and it'll be a free event. It's up and coming prospects. So this we do like the numbered events where it's like the champion, the title fight, things like that. And then we'll do, these lower level cards where we're trying to introduce new fighters.
Are you
And
going up to Canada?
No, man, I stay at home. I haven't been to an event yet, but they're coming to Tucson. I'm gonna absolutely go to the one here.
are
So you just
these
do all your work remote, yeah?
Yeah, it's all remote. Yeah. So I enjoy it, man. And that would be another one of the good aspects of it is just like the way that it changes all kinds of people's lives at every level, dude. Like I said, there's something to be said huge about enjoying your job. And for me to not be a martial artist myself or a fighter, whatever you want to call these bare knuckle dudes, it's improved my life greatly just being in the industry. So I think it does that for a lot of people. And then it's a bonding thing, man. You know, when you watch an event with your buddies, I mean, you have a couple beers, you do whatever you do, smoke whatever you like, you know what I mean? And it's different than any other sport, man. I've seen people just come together over it and it's just a blast, dude. So I think that there's a lot more good that doesn't get highlighted because it's violent, because you'll see some dudes seriously hurt, right? The poor girl freaking Deanna Belbita broke her damn arm,
That was
fighting
gross.
Molly McCann. And
Yeah,
you know,
landing, right?
what's that?
That was when she was landing, right? It just shattered.
No, she threw in an arm. Molly McCann threw in an arm bar, and it broke real quick. Just
Oof.
dislocated her elbow, I think, is what happened.
Yeah.
So,
are
and
you,
just the blood curdling scream. So you hear some of this negative stuff. They used to call it human cockfighting, right? But they don't understand. It's just people that are trying to prop up sports like basketball and football. These massive leagues that are kind of in cahoots with the government, in my opinion, and at some level, right? There's a lot of money to be made in sports betting. I just made a shirt. I think sports are rigged, right? I just made a shirt that says sports are rigged on it. But it's hard to rig these MMA fights to an extent, in my opinion, even though there's less people involved.
There's
There's
been
a
a
lot of pride.
few pretty famous examples, though.
Sure, absolutely, especially in like the Pride days and stuff like that. But I think that increasingly it's becoming more about legacy for a lot of these fighters. Sure, you're always going to have these fighters that take bets against themselves and they'll just take a dive, right? I mean, that's portrayed really well in Pulp Fiction, right, with Bruce Willis's character. But I don't know, man. I just look at it different. And then being a little bit not on the inside, I don't know all the secrets and stuff like that. But to me, it just seems 100% legit every time, at least in my promotion that I work in, dude. And I'm a big conspiracy guy, so I'll sniff out some weird stuff. But I think it's all on the up and up, dude. I love being a part of it.
Much more legit than other sports. Luke, you mentioned something off camera that I think is important. You kind of mentioned that martial arts for you, when you were in it, I think until you were 16 years old, that after you got out of it, your life kind of went downhill. But you also mentioned that so you lacked discipline at that point and you fell into other ways to channel your energy because we all have that need to belong. We all need to do stuff. Life can be boring. You got to fill it up with stuff. The best way to meet the devil is to leave your calendar blank, right? Idle hands bring the devil, that sort of thing. But you also talked about the aggression that we have, especially as young men. For us, we were out there tagging the streets with graffiti, and it's sort of like dogs peeing on the fire hydrants, right? This territorial type of behavior and this aggression that me, my friends, we didn't have anything positive to put it into. So, what do you think about that in terms of channeling that aggression? And do you think that's more important for younger people, especially? Would you put your child in it?
100%.
Yeah, like for me, it's easy for everyone. I think it is. It's easy to be bad, hard to be good. In all avenues of your life, you have to be disciplined in all of it. But depending on how I guess your parents would view it, for me personally, I think that it creates structure and discipline in your life that if you do it for a significant amount of time, you can reach a certain goal into your life and achieve something. But hopefully, your senseis and your leadership that's there are very humble and teach you a lot of positive things while you're reaching these little goals. And I think that if you do it for a certain period of time in any sport, as long as you have the right leadership, I think that can change into good behaviors in the outside world. Like you said, if you leave your calendar blank, you're probably up to no good. And depending on the person that you are, for me, 1000% up to no good. So I almost wish that I was left there for an extended period of time into my 20s, that I had something to go to even have an out, even if I was being bad. You know what I mean? At least I couldn't be bad for the whole 24 hours of the day or the whole week. It was just a portion of it. And then eventually, hopefully, I would come back to where I'm grounded and where I'm supposed to be, because I didn't really realize that. And we talked about in the last episode until I hit the age of like 25, 26, being like, hey, like this path you're going down, I'm sure you guys can agree with this. I got to change this or I'm going to end up on the streets, kind of thing, right? Or do something really bad or be in jail or hurt somebody. And then the other fact for young boys, I think we have a lot of energy and we're like wild horses. We got to run, man. We got testosterone. We got to run. We got to do something. You got to get that energy out. You can't be sitting playing video games. You can't be doing nothing. You got to go out and exert that energy, because I feel like that goes also to another positive place. Because if you don't have that and you're out in the streets roaming around, eventually you're going to be up to no good. I personally think that, not everybody, but
No, I agree, dude. Look, for me, like I had a lot going on in life too. I've always been into martial arts. Like I started karate when I was a kid. I got into like more jujitsu and MMA when I was a teenager. Um, but like you need that outlet. You need to be able to like go to a place where you can hit a bag, vent, and also it also helps you face like the things you're afraid of, bro. Like when I started training like MMA, I was training with like there was no kids program. It was just adults, bro. It's just grown men. So it's like I'm 16 and you guys, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but Ryan, when I met you, I was a big fat boy. I was like 200 and like 80 pounds. And it takes a lot of like one, you're coming from a place where you're already kind of insecure about where you're at. Like then I start fighting people who know how to fight. I was like nervous. Like I was like, dude, it. I would shell up when I'd see a punch when I was a kid, especially if it was a big guy throwing it at me. I'd be like, whoa, whoa, and then you kind of learn. You're like, oh, I'm not gonna die. I'm not this brittle. I'm capable of getting hit and hitting back. And then you're like, also, the more you do it, like you're like, oh, I'm just not getting hit. I'm just hitting them. This is awesome. So
Yeah.
eventually you get to that level too. But
It feels great to win, I'm sure.
oh yeah, and I mean like with everything, right? Anytime you stick to something, right? You can if you play chess for 15 years straight and then someone just comes in the door, the skill gap is crazy, right? Like it's the more you play, the more patterns you see, the more accustomed you get to things. So you're almost like two steps ahead every time. So and it gets to a point where it is like really technical. It's like it is like a chess match when you start breaking it down. You know how like when Neo sees the Matrix code, when it's like
Mhm.
when you're fighting, you're like, oh, okay, you can kind of start getting a read for it. The higher level you get in anything, right? But to the point about putting a kid in it, man, like I needed to be there. I think a lot of people just I needed it for a healthy lifestyle change. I needed it for the discipline. I needed it for like a lot of different things. And I would put my kid in it. I would put my kid in it before I put my kid in like Luke was saying. Video games are the devil. Like there obviously is a career path for
That's probably
kids
what got
playing.
you to 280 pounds.
You're literally where I was going next.
Yo, you took Moose. You told me it was your grandma that kept feeding you all the time, buddy.
Yeah, but if you're but if you're inside playing video games and you have
Yeah.
a Greek grandma that's ready to
Yeah.
cook for you at any moment, bro, it's
Yeah.
over. You have a short order cook and a video game addiction, you're done. You're 280 is a guarantee. Like, you know what I mean?
So I wanted to ask you guys this, both Dean and Moose. I don't know, Ryan, I think you're more of a lover, but I do that when I get upset and I've had a lot of years to sort of channel my energy, but I still get this insane amount of energy in my body. And when I'm upset, man, I definitely want to hit something. You know what I mean? And I'm almost considering going back. Moose, I know you're a pretty humble dude, but when you're upset, I personally I haven't really I don't really cry that much, and I know it's the same kind of release, but do you like hitting people? Like not
I've definitely taken out my aggression on people that are in the room with me when I'm training. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like it's like your fault I can't pay rent. I'm like, nothing to do with this guy, but I'm taking it out on him. Like, you know,
so is this a typical guy thing? Like we want to release our anger through fists? Like
100%. Like you've never had even in like it's you want to release a lot of things from your fist, not even just anger. Sometimes you're just really sad and you're like, fuck. And just life doesn't go your way sometimes. And sometimes you want to ball up your fist and hit something. You do it quick. Like at least with me, like when you're like when you're a teenager, you don't even know how to handle that aggression where you're just like, that
yeah.
phase will take over your whole brain. Like now I could be like, motherfucker, like quickly
But you're
punch
still
something.
holding it here. You just
Yeah.
you choose to act better. Like I had a similar upbringing to you, where my dad was super aggressive, very nice man, super high energy aggressive. My brother was. My dad used to be like this. Hey, you guys want to fight right now? Because we're going over it. He moved the table out of the way and be like, let's go. Let's go right now, buddy. Blood and guts. People are flying over tables. You know what I mean? My brother's whipping shit at me. We're beat. It's to the death. And then my mom would be coming in, be like, "You guys are disgusting." And this happened on a weekly basis, man. Like,
Yeah, but that's
maybe every
boys
couple
too.
weeks, but still, it
Yeah.
was just I wake up in the morning, I'd be going to work. Both my mom and dad were in kickboxing and karate. I was in it. My dad wants to spar me at 6 o'clock in the morning, but it's like half speed, right? Who the fuck wants to be sparred? You just opened your eyes, bro. And it's like, blah, 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 let's go. You know what I mean? You're like, oh fuck. I'm going to work, man, or this and that. Like just high energy all the time. And I think that's why I'm high energy as well. But I feel that it's almost like a rage, you know what I mean? Like when you get intense in your body. And I do go to the gym now recently, but it's hard to release that. You almost won't feel like I need to run a million miles right now to get this out of my body or cry, which I don't do. But I just feel like I've considered myself lately, not looking to be a pro or anything, but going and do some sparring. You know what I mean? Go back to boxing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll do jiu-jitsu. I really don't want my knee to blow out. I've already done it once. It was a fucking horrible recovery. I don't need anything where I'm going to break bones. Just like,
Yeah.
I just want to hit a little bit.
There's way more wear and tear in my opinion. Like, look, bro, I've done jujitsu for 17 years. There's nobody I don't know that's been doing it long term that is not fucking decapitated in some way. Like everything's broken. Like like I got bad elbows, bad knees, bad neck, bad fists. Like everything has taken some sort of damage. And I feel like that is one of the things you'll find in submission grappling is that the wear and tear overall is much worse. And I have a joke because like
You
every
think
time
it's worth? You think it's worse in the grappling and the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu than it is striking?
I think
listen.
100%.
This is in casual training. This is in casual training. Like if you're a guy that's not thinking about going pro as a boxer or pro as a fighter, and you just want to show up to the gym, spar every once in a while, you're not gonna you can find a lot of places where it's pretty casual, bro. I have a joke, like with every belt, like the gods come and take a piece of you. Like here's your blue belt, give me your elbow. Here's your purple belt, I need your knee now. Like so it's like the gods always come and they take a piece before you level up. And I've made it to the last, well, almost the last level. There's belts after, but those are impossible. But bro, they've taken every joint from up to my neck. My ankles don't work, my knees don't work, and this is obviously I've been competitive about it. I did do it in more of a competitive avenue, but I feel like there's not a lot of people who I've met that have done this sport for 10 plus years that don't have some sort of chronic pain or some sort of long-term injury, and that's from grappling. Obviously, I know people who've been competitive in every version of combat sports, and now when you're talking about competition, you're usually talking about more of a psycho to begin with. So that guy's probably going to go a little bit harder than you and probably put a little bit more damage on the vehicle. You know what I'm saying?
So I think we're shifting into the bad now, but I've got a couple more positives and I've got a question for Dean. So Dean, you mentioned too, like how exhilarating it is to watch it. But I think part of that is that there's something special about, first of all, being there in the moment when everybody is participating at once. I don't know if you guys know a guy named Rupert Sheldrake. I pretty much subscribe to Sheldrakeism. That's kind of like my worldview. A lot of his thing is about these fields that are created when we do something, and when people are participating in it all at once, there's something magical about it. And part of this is like once someone ran the 6 minute mile, then everyone could do it. A field has been created for that. But also when everybody's watching at once, there just is something incredible about that. Like it's boring to watch a UFC fight the next day. You wouldn't watch the Super Bowl the next day unless you absolutely had to and you're a diehard fan. Even me, last year, not this year, we watched the Super Bowl together and it was fun. There's that feeling that everybody is doing this at the same time. And part of that is that these people who are performing, whether it's football, basketball, or combat sports, they're at their peak performance. You can feel the exhilaration from them. You got someone that you want to win probably, and you're invested in it emotionally, but you also how nervous they are. Just all of the emotions are heightened, and we're all experiencing them together. I'm sure it's highest for the people actually on the field, but even then, actually, you get kind of into that flow, right? Where they might even just be kind of numb at that moment. They're just kind of floating
It's
at
one
that
on one
moment.
that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're in a blur. They're in a dream, and it's the rest of us now that are just riding that emotional wave. So I'm throwing that in there as a positive. Watching people at their peak performance and having to show up and do it. I do a lot of like editing type of stuff. Writing and even art, and like you only show the final product, right? So it's not the same. I don't have to show. It's part of why I like spray painting more than anything, because I have to show up and do it. Just do it. Just perform. And yeah, you get to be able to do that flow. You don't get to edit a fight. You don't get to go back and make changes and all that stuff. So I think that's a positive. And the other positive I was going to mention, and this is a question for you too, Dean. I know these guys have done street fighting. I personally think the positive of combat sports, keyword being sport there, is that it is organized, it's supervised, right? Especially for us kids, it was good to have supervision. I didn't do martial arts, but I did like Boy Scouts, and we had a youth center in our neighborhood for a while, and it was like the best thing that ever happened to us, just having good, especially adult male role models for us and
Right.
supervision. And so that if we were getting aggressive or something, this is kind of where I'm going with this. I think it's a lot better to, like your dad, Luke, throw the brothers in the kitchen ring, so to speak, and break it up if it gets too rowdy. Basically, especially with mixed martial arts, they are pretty good at breaking things up. We all know there's some refs out there who let the fight go too long, but it's great that they can get their aggression out, and for the most part, it is broken up before somebody gets really hurt. Whereas on the street, you could be much more severely injured if no one's holding you back. It's out of control. It's much better to have this in a controlled environment. If us as a species do need to let out this aggression, it is better to have it again supervised and refereed. and all that stuff. So Ryan, my question for you is, were you into street fighting? Were you into actual martial arts like classes and stuff as a kid too?
I mean, I did karate just like everybody else, but karate, like I said, I don't think that anyone should get their black belt when they're 8, 9, 10 years old.
No.
I'm not, talking down on karate as a martial arts because I know it helps a lot of people. You see people like Wonder Boy Thompson that I mean he's making a huge positive impact on a lot of kids, right? Um, but it's not as serious as like Muay Thai or any of these other things where it's very disciplined. BJJ is one of these things too, where it takes a lot of work to get through your belts, right? To get a black belt takes forever. These coral belts are impossible to get. That's what you're referring to, Moose, is right. These high level ones where, I mean, you have to be basically doing it for 50 years and you have to change the sport essentially to get to the level of a coral belt, like some of the Gracies have, right? But I did participate a little bit. Like I said, we all thought that we were going to be UFC fighters when we were in like high school, right? We'd fight in the bathrooms, right? There'd be like a bunch of people. There'd be like guys blocking the sinks and no one would fall and hit their head on the sink, shit like that. But super unorganized. There would always be someone that would come in and break it up, like once the dude quit or threw in the towel, whatever you want to say. But to your point, with these people that when they step into an organized setting and there's a referee there, right? There sometimes these dudes will stop it very early, right? I mean, like way too early. There's actually a fight happening this evening between two guys because it looked like this dude had like a head and arm or something, and he went limp, and then they just called it right when the guy thought that he was done, and he's still standing there. He's like, dude, I'm fine, and so that happens, but that is better than letting someone when you get a referee. There's a meme where it's like you'll see this referee and this dude just pounding this guy's head in. And the referee's just thinking if he dies, he dies. Right? It's wild. That some of the late stoppages that you'll see. So I think it is better to get these early stoppages rather than the later stoppages. It saves these guys' careers, but it can also be kind of tragic when someone's still very much in the fight. They're known for their chin, and then they get a fight called. So, it's a double-edged sword there, but I fully agree, dude. It's better in an organized setting, 100%. There's no I don't think debate about that.
Well, where we grew up, there was something weird about the time and the place, something about the suburbs too, where, if you have a problem with someone, you're going to see them again. I don't know, Moose, if maybe you have an opinion on this since you've lived in the city for many years now. It's kind of like in the city, a lot of people just go about their business. And if someone's being a jerk, you just like, oh, whatever. I'm just going to keep walking by. You're not a problem. But in the suburbs, if someone's bullying you, man, it's a big problem in your life. You are going to see them day after day. So I don't know. It's changed now. Kids got phones. I think that was a big, big, big thing about turning down the aggression and all that stuff. Because when we were going to school, it was literally every day you might get robbed. You might have to rob someone. You might have to fight every day, every single day. You might have to fight. You're walking on eggshells most of the time. Even the tough kids, even the kids who are not tough like me, like it was kind of a scary, nervous place. And yeah, for a lot of the fights that were not only not refereed, if you fell to the ground at our school, you got stomped by the crowd. It was dangerous.
Stomped.
And some people got permanent brain damage. I'm not actually thinking of fights at our school. A couple of my brother's friends, actually a bunch of my brother's friends, swarmed some kids, and those two kids, one of them has permanent brain damage, and the other one is permanently altered as well, but not as bad. And one of my good friends, he beat a kid so bad, like he might have been altered for life, but he actually killed himself like the next week. And not just because it was a bad beating, but because it was a bad, embarrassing beating. And after he was done,
that kid was already kind of
I get it. But after he had already,
that's kind of a weird conflation. But
after he had already lost the fight, though, my friend kept going on him in very embarrassing ways and very public ways. And maybe that kid could have turned it around, but he didn't. I'm just saying, in an unrefereed environment, especially when the crowd is really itching for blood, it wasn't good. This should have been in a ring, and a lot of these things should have been settled quickly and then broken up before anyone got really, really hurt.
I'll speak to that point exactly. So what you're saying is absolutely right, and especially with where we grew up. So it's like, here's a couple points that I kind of want to make that I've been thinking about since Dino was talking. So, when I moved to Pickering, I was from Scarborough, and in Scarborough, if we got in a fight, it was 6 of us versus 1 of you. That was how we were scrapping. Like, we're pulling up on you. It wasn't like really like a fight. Then I moved out there. And Luke, do you remember the amphitheater by
Yeah.
Von Willard?
Yeah.
Bro, dudes would pull up there as a
Fight
fucking
night, man. It was wild.
fight night. Friday and Saturday night, people would
Yeah.
pull up there and just make big circles and with no intentions of like, I have no beef with you, no qualms. People are like, yo, you're fighting this guy's fighting that guy. And people are just sitting there with a handy cam filming Friday night fights at this fucking, and there was a weekly event. I remember watching, remember fucking Kelly Armstrong?
Yeah. He was pretty good.
Maniac too.
That guy dismantled, bro.
Rhinoceros, that guy. Freakishly
That
strong.
guy would. We were in the 9th grade, bro. We just got to high school, and this guy was on his second year of grade 12. He had fucking he was technically in grade 13. He's like, I'll fight anybody here. Kelly's like, I'll fight you right now. Didn't even fucking flinch. Yo, Kelly used to not. We were in grade 8. This man was knocking out grown men and coming to school with. Remember how everyone wore extra baggy shit? This guy was knocking out and robbing grown men coming in with size 12 shoes on with a size 8 foot. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
He was naturally gifted for someone who didn't train.
He was a freak. That guy was just a freak. That's
like
a fighter versus martial artist. Fighter versus martial artist. That guy was just straight fighter. Like,
yeah, no technique. No technique at all.
No. Head built like a pit bull, like a big fucking square cast iron pan. You're like, Jesus Christ. When we were in like
very accurate too, man, with the punches. Like I remember him hitting people like very accurate. Like he was like he would wait.
Just pure force. Bang.
You're like, okay, this guy's gone. Yeah, he was very good.
4-pieced a grown man, basically. And dismantled this guy's face, broke his orbital bone, had his eye hanging down here, and this was a weekly occurrence for no reason whatsoever.
I know.
And I was like, so moving there, it was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, we have to fight. Like I thought it was tough there because I jumped people, I'd rob houses, like like I was gangster, like in that regard. But these boys were just straight fighting, and they were clearing out, and they were just 1v1, and they're like, hey, handle your business. I was like, whoa, where are my friends at? I need at least 5 people here. So like, you know, and then it changed a lot of stuff, and I will say that like, okay, one, it was a fucking zoo, and that was kind of crazy. But the other part, like, Dean was touching on this earlier with like, hey, one thing that fighting and training a lot has done is it's humbled me, because I've run into the most unassuming killers. Like, you see a guy that has Ryan's big dorky glasses on, his little messenger hat, and then he like comes in and you're like, I'm gonna fucking destroy this dude when he gets on the mat. And then you're folded up like a pretzel, and you're like, what just happened? He's like, all right, adios. And I'm like, hold on, don't leave. We need to talk about what you just did to me, because like, there's a lot of unassuming cats that I've seen in fighting. So I'm fortunate enough to like, there are obviously telltale signs on the body when you learn to look at people who fight. You're like, look at them big old fucking knuckles, or guys wrestling neck and shit like that. You can kind of see these little signs if you're around. But there are some just silent killers out there. So I've met dudes that are 5'1" that'll tank half a room. And you'd be like, this shouldn't happen. This little guy shouldn't be able to walk in here and just bulldog a whole room. So I would say that the more I fought, the less I'm prone to fight randomly now, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, now I've got the experience to be like, oh, dude. And actually, if I did get in a fight where it became a technical street fight, I'd probably stop and be like, where are you train? Like, what are we doing?
Well, Moose, let me ask you this. You know, since you are a trained fighter and quite a good fighter, if you got into a street fight, would you just triangle him and kind of, would you leave it? Or, I mean, would you beat this guy half to death? Or would you restrain yourself? Would you have the discipline to say, look, I won. Here you go. You look silly now, and I'm going to stand up before you.
Okay. So
before I hurt you. I have
two different views on this, right? And look, from my experience, I've never had, especially if it's a submission, okay? I've never had someone who didn't think what just happened was a fluke, right? Especially in the street fight. So I'm like, hey, man, I learned this at 17. I went to this fucking house party, and this guy's older brother was there, and he's like, oh, you fight? Because he had someone, we were talking about martial arts. He's like, I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, put your hand out. I'm like, okay. So I raised my hand. He's like, higher. And I'm like, okay. And then he tries to throw a taekwondo kick drunkenly at my hand. And the guy just eats shit, falls to the ground. And I'm laughing. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, he's like, well, you think you beat me up? I was like, I don't think I could beat you up. I know I could fucking beat you up. Like, I'm like, this isn't like a big thing. And then boom, we get in a scrap, however it happens. Like, we're in a big circle. The first 30 seconds, bro, catch, mount, put him in a little choke. Buddy's like, stop. I'm like, okay, cool. The moment I let go, the moment I get up, Buddy starts trying to bomb on me. He's like, you got lucky. And I'm like, all right. This time I'm not letting go. I put you in a choke and I'm outing you. So for the most part, I found like, especially working security, I'm just putting people quick to bed, like quick, because knocking you out is different. Like if I rattle your brain, it could cause a concussion. If I choke you out, I've just stopped blood from going to your brain for a little bit. So it puts you in a quick nap. And if I don't do the asshole thing and just let go and drop you, you can hit the ground pretty safe. And I've done both, but most of the time I'm putting people out because I'm done dealing with people who are like, all right, I'm good. And then they're not good. Like they're not good. They're going to try and bomb on you again. They're probably still hammered. They're probably still whatever. And I've honestly, it's kind of like shitty to say this, but I've been in a lot of street fights where like I've been in joint submissions where I'm like, well, I'm breaking your arm. We should have thought about this way before. And it's gross. Like,
well, maybe it teaches them not to pick street fights too. I don't know.
That's true.
I
too.
think there should
That's
be
true,
consequences.
Too. That's true too. But I've also like I'm also not an instigator for the most part. Like, you know what I mean?
Maybe, I didn't think you were.
For the most part. Like
Yeah,
I'm saying back in the day, you could have said maybe. Like I was when I was more testosterone filled and like, you know, I'd party more, I'd maybe get those little fight eyes. I'm like, fuck you. But those days are long behind me. Nowadays, if I'm getting in a scrap, it's usually because I'm on the receiving end of something that's coming my way. And I'm not gonna back down if it's something I feel like I can handle in a situation. Like I've still in the last few years been in like I would call them mini altercations. Like, you know what I mean? Like I saw some guy break the window at the restaurant across the street while I'm working at the restaurant. The restaurant was closed and he was like drunk, goes over there and he's like, he can't get his food. So he punched through the window and he tries to walk off. So I'm like, chase the guy down, high kicked his leg and kicked him in the chest. And I was like, all right, now sit down and you wait here till somebody comes. And then like, that was the extent of it. But like,
there should be consequences though, honestly.
Yeah, baby ones. I'm not going to sit there and just bomb on some dude that like made a dumb decision, but I'm also not going to let him slide on just letting these people pay, you know, $1,500 for the window. You're paying that 1,500, bro. I know it's a dumb, drunk decision, but I'm not just going to let you slide and have people I consider friends to eat a bill because you made a drunk decision. So I'm going to, you know, chop your leg out.
I think, you know, the way you say, you know, break someone's arm if you have them in this position. I mean, you have to because I've made this joke over and over again because I got a lot of friends that are into specifically jujitsu. Jujitsu is becoming very mainstream, like very mainstream.
Yeah.
And I've actually joked about it. It's like karate 2.0, right? Mm-hmm. It's very much more skilled. It's more technical stuff, but too many people are doing this stuff to where everyone thinks that they're like a badass to an extent. Like I know how to throw up a triangle choke. I know how to get a dude in an arm bar or kimura, whatever you want to say. And a lot of these guys don't know how to get it to the ground where they need it. Right.
Nope.
You see this a lot, especially in MMA, but dude, if you're in this position, I've made the joke where like, I think a lot of jujitsu dudes out there in a street fight, they'll have somebody, let's just say rear naked choke, dude taps, and then they let go because it's a muscle memory thing. So I'm like, dude, you gotta make sure that you finish the job until you feel them go limp.
Adios, amigo.
Get them down.
Yeah, adios, amigo. You're absolutely right. And to your point too, like a lot of dudes in jiu-jitsu get this false sense of confidence, and I'm telling you, bro, I see this a lot. If I want to make this point 100% clear, you are right. It's become karate 2.0 right now. It's very close. It's getting kind of McDojo-y, even though it is a solid martial art. Mm-hmm. Bro, if you started jiu-jitsu post 2006, in my opinion, you're a pussy. Okay? Straight the fuck up, dog. Like it's okay. Remember we were talking about sport fighters?
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu used to be jiu-jitsu versus everybody. Right. Everybody. I don't care what you do, I bet you I could beat you. Right? Now they teach jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu. You will go into a jiu-jitsu school and you will never learn to defend yourself. Period. Yeah. Point blank, period. You will only learn how to deal with other guys who do jujitsu. What the fuck is the point of that? What
Yeah.
the fuck is the point? Please explain to me. I find it super like I did not learn this sport or this martial art for it to be a sport. I learned it for it to be a martial art. Martial art first, sport second. If you take the martial art aspect of it, this is pause. This is a waste of time to me. This is kind of gay. Where we're just, you know what I mean?
You
Yeah.
mean if
shouldn't
they
be-
if they can't do other stuff like in a real fight, like MMA?
Look, man, look, I learned to open a guard with something called a neck crank. It's illegal. So a can opener. So you grab the guy's neck, you put your hands on this, like your elbows line up to his sternum, and you pick their head up. So you're basically putting them in a spine crunch. And you force them to hurt so much that they open their legs. It's illegal. You can't do any of the stuff. All the stuff that I learned to do when I like, a lot of the stuff as a sport becomes a sport, they start putting rules on it and they say, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that, this will hurt you, bro. So now all of a sudden, these guys get a false sense of confidence from never even learning to fight against. So when I learned to put up a triangle, I learned to put up a triangle against a guy trying to punch you in the face.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
dude, that's the thing, man. You took the words right out of my mouth there, Moose, where these dudes get a false sense of security. You know, you're not like the butt scooting thing that's going on in like jujitsu tournaments. That's not practical. It's not a practical way to fight anyone. If someone breaks into your house, are you going to get down on the ground like that and just wait for them to come down to the ground with you? No, you got to learn how to get it there. You got to know some form of striking too. And you know, it's funny, man. There's a guy that I work with, really good dude. I'm not even trying to talk any shit about him. But I was telling him, I was like, I said the exact same thing that we're saying right here, where jujitsu is becoming karate 2.0. You know, I think a lot of these guys, they're not really at the level that they think they are. And he was saying to me, it's like, man, I guarantee you, we go outside for 15 minutes or whatever, I'll have you thinking different. And I'm like, buddy, like, you wouldn't, you know what I mean? I'm way bigger than this dude. First of all, he can't get it to the ground. I guarantee, like, because I like wrestling. That was my thing, right? So you know how to defend yourself when from getting to the ground. That's your whole point: is A, getting the other dude to the ground, and then B, keeping yourself up, right? So I don't know, man. It really is an interesting. It's in an interesting spot because when you know Royce Gracie gets in there, the first ever UFC, and he does this, no one knows what it is. And then everyone wants to learn it because it was so effective against these badass dudes, the Ken Shamrock, striker type dudes, wrestler type dudes. But now everyone knows it. It's a secondary or primary thing for every single you know, high level mixed martial artist, man. They either have 100% takedown defense so that it doesn't get there, someone like Max Holloway, right?
Yeah.
And they can just box your head off for 25 minutes if need be. And then there's other guys that can defend these things. I don't know if you happen to see the it was a Canadian, Charles Jourdain, and he was fighting a Gracie.
Yeah,
And
that was ridiculous fight. The most
it's
embarrassing
embarrassing
fight.
for jujitsu
Embarrassing. Oh my God.
because everyone, you know, everyone that's on the side of this, I forget the guy's name. Do you remember the Gracie?
Kron Gracie.
Braun, yeah, okay. So this dude, you know, expert jujitsu player, right? Like a solid jujitsu player. And then you just have a slightly well-rounded. I mean, Charles Jourdain, he's nothing crazy, right? He's not ranked, but he's very talented in all departments. And everyone knows how to fight off of, you know, fight off of their back against jujitsu or fight from the top. And a lot of jujitsu dudes like being on the bottom. You know what I mean? A lot like throwing up chokes from the bottom. So it's just in an interesting spot, man. I actually wanted to ask you too, like what you think the state of Canadian mixed martial arts is, because it's been a struggle for like
Canadian fight sports have been in shambles forever. There's no support. There's commissions here are garbage. Like it's hard to get anything going here. It like I'm sure the only place you could get that BKFC card was probably in Edmonton because they have a pretty decent commission. But it's a nightmare for fight sports here. There's no support. There's no structure for you to go anywhere, right? So you have to be fighting in the States. You have to go take fights in the States. Like it's almost impossible to start a mixed martial arts career solely fighting here. Like it just probably won't happen.
Well, it's so interesting because you had, you know, George St. Pierre, and then now it seems like nobody cares after that. Like this Mike Malott dude was supposed to be the next guy, and then he just goes out and loses to Neil Magny after
That was ridiculous. 3 rounds of whipping ass, and then this guy said, "Hold on, yeah, bat, 30 seconds." That just beats the brakes off our boy. Crazy.
Yeah, that's what's nuts to me, man. And it's a shame because I would say that the fans, the mixed martial arts fans there in Canada are very supportive, dude.
Oh yeah.
Go and they had and not to talk shit about female MMA, but it's not as fun. I'm sorry, it's just not. There's some very talented girls, Aaron Blanchfield and these types. Amanda Nunez just retired, so it's gotten a lot more boring. But they were like happy in Canada to have Amanda Nunez versus Juliana Pena as the main event. And it's like, dude, that's not selling out a pay-per-view here in the States, right?
We're happy to have anything here.
We didn't have a UFC in almost a decade, right? And the thing is, like, once they started doing those like Apex events, they stopped doing those fights at all those small. They do the fight cards it had to be at a venue, right? So you would catch some Canadian cards when that was going on, and you'd get those fight nights at the small venues. They stopped doing that. We stopped getting fights for years. You get you get this one chance to see the fight, and like the Pena sold out because again we've had two fights in the last little bit. It was that card and then the Strickland card, and then I'm not sure if you've even seen the price of the tickets here. I don't know what they are in the States, but you're not getting into the venue without spending $800.
Yeah.
Just like you can't go to a Raptors game or anything. It's insane here. It's stupid.
Insane.
It's for the rich.
It's an elitist thing to go outside.
You guys think it's because Canada's soft as fuck? That's why we are all sensitive here because of fucking the way.
No, I think what happens in Canada is specifically, this is going to be completely off topic, but we get a lot of people there's a lot of people who say yes to things that they shouldn't so they can make money. So other people can make way more money. People say yes, or like, you know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of people.
It's everywhere in every industry, 100%.
Yeah, but Luke, Canada is kind of soft. Yes, okay, culturally, but we also supply half of the NHL, sorry, the hockey. Half of the American teams are Canadians. Roughly half.
Yeah,
and
but
that's the only sport that they actually allow fighting for no reason. It's not part of the game. It doesn't have anything to do with the points or anything. It's just for some reason it's the only sport that they let them fight when it's and everybody loves it. Of course, it's like if they took fighting out of hockey, the league would crumble. I think so. I'm just to defend. We are soft in general, but we do have hockey, and that at least takes away some of that. We got some tough guys who like being tough, like combat.
Yeah, but like being tough, there's a difference. I was gonna say what you two boys were just talking about, Dean and Moose. Oh, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. I can fuck you up because you took the course and you think you can do it. I think it's also mentally in your head too. Like I'm a fucked up person. Like I'm nice to everyone. I don't instigate shit. I know Moose is gonna fucking whip my ass. He'll kick the fucking shit out of me, but I'm not backing down if he's bullying me. No fucking way am I am. I don't even care if he breaks both my arms. You know what I mean? I know he will kill me, but just who I am as a person, I'm not letting anyone take advantage of me if I'm not in the wrong.
Most dudes like that can do that to you, Luke. They're not going to go and just fuck with you for no reason. You know what I mean?
That's 100% true.
An asshole in the first place, or they're not that good. I've never seen like a quality fighter just go out of their way and try and fuck with people. It doesn't.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like.
Right.
I'm just saying like. Okay, so now the day and age, even in my industry, a lot of people come in because they've learned a portion of it. They haven't really done much of it. And now, because you carry the certificate, you're qualified for this position. And like a lot of people, especially the issues I'm having in my trade, because I'm a plumber by trade and I also run big jobs, a lot of people in the white collar atmosphere know fuck all about mechanical, like nothing, or construction of that matter. It's just pretending, right? Everything's about pretend. So to your guys' point about like, oh, this guy trained a little bit of jiu-jitsu and now he thinks he's fucking Hoist Gracie and he can fuck you all up. It's like, nah, man, like you need, like we talked about last episode, you need 20,000 fucking hours to be good. I can say to you guys right now that I am good at my job because I've done it for 16 years. I'm not the best. I'm not the worst, but I'm definitely really good at what I do. Just because the time I put in and the effort and the learning, and I could be better than what I am, I could put forth more of an effort. But nowadays, everyone's just like, oh, I carry this qualification, like I'm the best. You know what I mean? Like, well,
but speaking of that, and it's just like Dean was saying, okay, that's maybe an attitude you'll get with somebody who's actually not that good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna find, and I think I said this last time, all the dudes that I met that are like world champions, like world beaters, that kill most people. You think that this guy would have some crazy ego, and then you go and shake his hand, and he's like the most soft-spoken, humble individual. You're like, hey man, how you doing? And I'm like, this is the fucking guy that I've seen
That's part of
on
mastery,
Well,
though.
no, I'm not.
You're not a
I
master
agree.
if
So
you
so
don't
that's
have
the
that
thing,
attitude.
right? So that's like to your point though, Luke. The guy who's usually got that bravado of like, oh fuck everybody up. You've been to what, like a month of jujitsu or something? I'm like, bro, you haven't even seen it. You can't even do nothing in your room. What are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? And then I've had I've had humbling experiences where I judge the book by its cover, and I said this earlier, where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna beat that dude up, and then my life is rearranged, and I'm like, what just happened to me? Because like one time, and again, being a heavier dude, like I there's this kid, like this little bone rack 16-year-old that was a Pan Am's champion twice, and they're like, oh, you should go get around with this kid. He was wearing so the last belt you can get as a kid is a green belt. It's like basically like the black belt for kids. You're not supposed to get your blue belt until you turn 16. So this kid was wearing this green belt, and I'm like, all right, let me see what all the hype is about, right? And I'm like, I'm just gonna smush this little guy. He's tiny. I could not do anything to this little boy. Like he was so technically sound. I was like, oh no, like this is. I'm like, oh, you are a world champion. I'm like, oh, I get it. And so it's like from that, like when the more you have those experiences where you're like, okay, your ego's hyping you up. You're like, I'm gonna like visually fuck this guy up, and then you go in there, and then the script is flipped. You're like, oh, all right. You eat the humble pie, and then you come back tomorrow with less of that ego. You're not. You're
Don't
like,
you have to
oh,
believe in yourself though? There's a certain thing like I'm gonna go into this. I know it's a little off, but Mike Tyson, and he is a little crazy, but he was a very good boxer. And I heard him say this one thing, right? That he would truly believe that he would kill these people. And as he trained more and more throughout his career and got better at what he was doing, he felt fucking insane. He's like, it was making me crazy because he's like, I could destroy anybody. And a long portion of time, he fucking did.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? He's like, if I had to stop because he felt like, and I sort of like, I feel like if I put all my efforts into something like that, like working out, it makes you feel crazy, doesn't it? Like, would you guys agree with that?
I think that's kind of like that's out of the norm. Like the John Jones. I was thinking of John Jones the whole time we were saying this, where it's like, this guy is very, very good, but also kind of wild. I think I mean, these people are naturally gifted. Someone like Mike Tyson, there's something naturally in him that makes him hit hard as shit,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There's something natural in John Jones where he has this killer instinct, right? I mean, that dude was good with like no training really. Yeah, he was a JUCO wrestler and stuff like that, but this guy was good, like otherworldly talent. And those people, I think their egos are a little bit out of whack, but I think that is very rare. A talent
yeah.
like Tyson and Jones is rare, man.
But it's also that demon, like we were talking about earlier, that thing that makes you a fighter. Is there's a lot of internal struggle when you go through a lot of like shit in life. You need to vent that somewhere, and sometimes you just get good at like venting it right to your hand and putting it right against someone's chin. Like, and hey, you find success in that. And one, like John Jones was a phenomenal athlete. Tyson was a specimen of a human. You see pictures of Tyson at 11. He's got like that, like Kelly we were talking about. He's got a brick chin. He looks like a grown man, right? And he
Yeah.
comes from extreme struggle where Cuss took him in. And if it wasn't for that guy, if basically adopting a kid that he saw potential in as a fighter and only as a fighter, you'd probably just have a world-class criminal, some guy you would have been afraid of on the streets. Like, you know what I mean?
No, he
Like
wouldn't have been on the streets for that long. He would have been in
You
jail.
guys believe
in
in
jail, but you know what I'm saying? He would have been in and out of the bin, and he would have been someone that you would like. He had like a hood reputation where you were afraid of this guy in your neighborhood, and that would have been the extent of it, right? Like, but
Luke, what were you saying?
do you guys believe in manifestation of like Moose, you're talking earlier, like you looked at this guy and you're like, yo, I'll fucking dust you based on his look. But is there another part of you that says, okay, when you're going in and you're preparing for a fight, you got to believe you can do it.
I
Like
always,
truly
yeah.
believe, no fucking doubts at all. And anything, like, you know what I mean? You have to believe it because as soon as you don't, that's when you lose.
So this is a weird thing about it, right? So it's like your martial arts does make you humble, right? Like seeing people who are killers that you would like a guy like I'm not sure if you guys ever seen Mikey Musumeci. Okay, it's
Good kid,
Dina, yeah, that so that like that's a really nerdy, unassuming kid that's like a world champion. So you get some guys like that. But you also need to have a bit of ego where you know you're gonna fuck some people up. You know what I mean? Like you have to have that bit of confidence where like I'm going in here to fuck you up and impose my will. Like I know this is gonna happen. There's obviously some tough customers who also have that same thought that you do. But it's like who's at the end of the day, it's like you need that to at least go out there and fight and think you're gonna win. Right? You can't go in there like, oh, I'm gonna lose. It's gonna be terrible for me.
I
Like
want to throw something in here though.
Not even show it, guys. Not even show it. Just believe it. You don't have to say anything. You be humble, the nicest guy in the world, but just knowing your head.
Yeah, what Luke
Yeah.
is saying is that there's a difference between confidence and ego, and I think this is a very, very, very important point. I don't think us, especially as men, I'm not sure about the female psychology. I'm not a psychologist, but for us men, we need to get good at something. We need to become a master on something, or we will feel like a loser. And if you feel like a loser, you will be a loser. And for me, I felt, very lost in my 20s because I didn't spend my childhood building anything really. We did graffiti and stuff, but as we talked about on the tattoo episode, there's no future in graffiti. The best you can do is shift into tattoos for most of us. So I had built a skill set that was going to bring me nowhere in life. And so I started studying, I started reading books at 16 years old when I quit doing drugs. And by the way, when I went and saw Moose in the 20s and you guys were being wild, I wasn't actually doing drugs. It was kind of weird for me. I was sitting there sober, running around with you guys and watching you guys be all messed up and destructive. And it was just a weird experience. But anyway, so it took until I was 24, 25, 26, where I started getting into the health business and really started learning it and getting good at it, where I really actually gained the self-confidence in myself. And at that point, it was like the more my skill went up and the more my confidence went up, the more my ego went down. I also ate a lot of magic mushrooms over those years too, and I think that literally crumpled up what was left of my ego and threw it out in the garbage. But definitely without mastery, without working the way towards mastery, I don't feel like I would be anything. I'd be a little puddle of water. And I think there's so many people out there. We were talking about video games earlier. Kids are spending their childhood, teenage, 20s playing video games or doing nothing that's really building an actual tangible skill. And then they're left by the end of their 20s and 30s where they're now trying to be a man and they've got no skill. They've got nothing to back their ego on. So this ego inflates itself artificially because it doesn't actually have the confidence there that it has actually achieved anything, has actually achieved any kind of mastery. So martial arts, I think, could be one of those stepping stones at the very minimum, even if you don't pursue a combat sport career, coaching or participant or whatever, even if you don't pursue that, it sets the foundation for you, like you said, Moose, to learn things, to be disciplined, to wake up early. We need a reason to wake up early and start to build something. And a lot of people just genuinely don't have any of that foundation to build any kind of a skill later.
Well, maybe another thing too, and I know exactly what you guys are saying with the mastery, but maybe that's too intimidating of a word for a lot of people to become a master in something, right? Because, I mean, I'm good at things, but I wouldn't consider myself a master, right? Moose, I don't know if you consider yourself a master in jujitsu.
fuck no.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe there's a different term, sharpening a skill or whatever, because that sounds intimidating to people. A lot of people are like, "Oh, how the fuck am I going to become a master? I'm 35 years old and I want to start something now."
I think the goal is mastery of something, right? To like a full scope understanding should be your goal. Obviously, that's a lifetime grind on anything. And you
Mhm.
should understand that even no matter what you do, no matter what can of worms you open, you're never gonna truly fully understand every facet and detail of it because like things
But
are
that's part of
changing.
the humbling process. The more you
Exactly.
learn, the more you know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Right? I got
Exactly.
overconfident in the health business, by the way. Somewhat related, I think.
Mhm.
We have very good products and we have a very good system. We have a very good leader. We were given the tools that makes it pretty easy, honestly, to help the vast majority of people. I fixed my stiff man syndrome, my childhood arthritis in less than a week. Boom, moved on to my mom, fixed her osteoporosis. Quick, no problem. Oh, this is easy. We're getting our friends' parents off of their diabetes meds and all this stuff. I got overconfident, is what I'm saying. And I had to really dig deep and start getting deep into the learning and deep into the toughest cases that they're in, study the failures and all this stuff to realize now, 10 years in, I hardly know anything. That's so at the beginning in the first 2, 3 years, I thought I almost knew everything. I didn't even feel like I really needed to study it anymore. And yet, no, it's actually once you really get into whatever you're doing, I'm sure it's the exact same in jujitsu. And Luke, you said it already with plumbing. You've been doing this for 16 years, and now you realize that you know hardly any of it. You're
Yeah.
good at what you do, but you see a long road ahead of you. But I think that long road is good. We need goals. We need to be
Mhm.
working towards
But
something.
even,
You will be lost without it.
Dude,
but
yeah.
even a master, does a master think he's a master? Probably not. He's
No,
still
usually not.
an individual, right?
They're probably
Yeah.
humble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
usually not.
that's what I was trying to say. I know exactly what you guys are getting at with that word mastery and things like that, but some people might not understand it. That's the only reason I was throwing it out. But
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan, what you're talking about there too, I think that's the next level of understanding where you're at in the process of something, right? If let's bring it back to like martial arts or combat sports a little bit here, where there's this kid that he's 18, let's say he's going through, he's undefeated as an amateur, knocking dudes out, finishing everybody, right? Turns pro, continues knocking dudes out, and he starts thinking, man, I'm the next John Jones, I'm the next whoever, undefeated fighter, Khabib, whatever you want to, whoever your idol is, I'm this next guy. And they get cocky, and then they get finished for the first
Paulo
time.
Costa.
You see, well, that freaking Joe Pfeiffer recently,
Yeah.
Sean Brady. It's a thing with certain gyms. I think certain gym have weird cultures, and with this Henzo Gracie gym out of Philly, these dudes are excellent grapplers, but they're striking as shit, right?
Mhm.
Joe Pfeiffer might be the slight exception to this. And sorry to keep bringing up these names, but I feel like it's relevant here. But now they come back and they're much more humble after their first loss. They realize, oh shit, I need to keep getting better because this sport's going to pass me by if I keep thinking I'm the best. And then they learn, man. Sean Brady, after he gets knocked out by Bilal Muhammad of all people, who does not knock people out, right? He comes back and then he freaking dominates Kelvin Gastelum in a grappling match because he got back to what he
Yeah.
was. So I think that that's the next evolution of trying to become a master in something is realizing that you don't know shit.
Dude, and I agree with that. And then sometimes it's better to take that loss early and experience that. Imagine like there's also something that you're like in going on like a 14 fight win streak into your pro, like they're pumping that ego up heavy. You're like, dude, I am fucking starching everybody.
Mm.
And then dealing with the loss is tough. Like there's a lot of mental stuff that you have to go through as well. So it's like
But
I
that's how you
rather
grow. You grow through pain,
yeah,
right?
I dude 100%, 100%. But what I'm saying is this. So essentially, the longer the win streak goes without the L, the higher the fall from the losses, right? So a lot of people like um don't know how to deal with something they've never dealt with before.
Yeah.
So
What
some
about it?
people
What about if someone stays on their game? Like, just say they are a flawless record, right? Like, do you not believe that those individuals are trying exceptionally hard, probably 10 times more than anybody currently at their stage, and they're pushing it and pushing it? Like, you have to be. I don't believe that all to be luck. Like these people on outside of the field, not only trading inside, but they're doing so many things so they can be the absolute best of what th're doing more than anybody else, and that's why they have a flawless record.
to
Yeah.
to that point though, the dudes that do have flawless records have unflawless like you're taking that loss somewhere, man.
Of
You're
course
gonna
you
learn
are.
to
But I
lose
believe those,
somewhere.
but I believe some
Look,
of those people that do very well and have a, let's say, even if they have a one or two loss, right? Like they're so hard on themselves on everything that they do. It's not even just about like, yeah, they want to win, but they're battling themselves every day. I don't think they'd be set so far back if they actually did lose one or two, because you know what, mistakes happen. You're not going to be 100% every day. You know what I mean? Some fluky shit could happen, right? But I'm sure they're always battling with themselves, and that's why they're that good. It's not like just gonna fucking make it there 100%, right? Like,
There's no such thing as a straight climb to the top. In personal
yeah,
development, they tell you to fail faster, fail fast, and fail first. Get your
yeah, I
failures
agree.
out of the way.
Early and often, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody thinks that it's just a straight climb, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's art or plumbing or anything. I mean, they're just wrong or they're delusional.
do we
So
have
it's
any sorry, do we have any guys that we can reference that do have flawless records that you believe that is good
So
to look up to?
the only person I can think of with a like an O that is like kind of like a role model type guy would be, I don't know if Dean agrees with me. I think it's Khabib, man. He's like he's like
Sure.
29-0. The guy's he's never been one for like a lot of controversy. Like you have another guy that you could say is undefeated, technically has an L on his record, but he's undefeated, is John Jones. Um,
I don't
and
think anybody counts that though.
yeah, that no one counts that Matt Hamill elbow as a loss. And I think the thing is like that guy has experienced way more L's outside the cage.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Khabib
Like
had to have lost before he got into the ring on a camera and stuff. You know what I
you
mean?
know, but Khabib's lost in Sambo, Khabib's lost in wrestling, Khabib's lost before he became a pro fighter. But
Yeah, and you look into
like,
his record a little bit too, like the first 20 dudes he's fought, 16 at least. And no one knows these guys. So he's kind of built he in my opinion, and you're right, Moose, like he's an admirable figure for sure. Um they kind of built him like a boxer, right? Where he's kind of going up crushing cans for a while, and then he gets to the big stage, and he's great. I mean, his striking was bad for a long time, but when Luke was talking about this and you know asking about a figure that we could reference in modern times, I think even though I don't like him, no one really likes the guy right now. Ian Gary. I mean, this guy embodies what a martial artist is. He's his next level talent is just nuts. He goes around. He you know studies at different gyms. This recent camp he did at Charles Oliveira's gym. It's slipping my mind right now. Diego Lima shoot the box.
shootbox, yeah.
Yeah, and he's going around. He's learning all these different things, and I would imagine a loss would bother him. He's got a very clear path that he wants to follow to a title, um, but it wouldn't end his life. He's taken some L's outside of the ring or outside of the
Yeah,
cage, I should say, because
yeah, well,
I'm
yeah,
a
because of
cuck
his
right
own
now.
mouth. Yeah, but again, that's something that you've created, right? Like that guy tried to. So here's why I don't like Ian Gary, because he's not Conor McGregor, but
Mhm.
he's trying to be that. Like you could tell that when the camera's not on, he's actually a pretty decent human being.
Sure.
I would appreciate it if he was more genuine than trying to be someone that's already existed.
Well,
You-
I mean, Connor just did it at such a high level that I think everyone, whenever they do something entertaining, like Ilya Taporia, this last UFC 298, everyone's comparing everything he's doing to Connor, taking the belt off Alexander, holding it up. You know, Connor did so much at such a high level as far as media and press and stuff like that goes that I think if anyone tries to be entertaining and controversial, people naturally say he's copying Connor, right? Who the hell wouldn't want to copy Connor? Those two became a freaking billionaire almost, you
No,
know?
dude, I get it though, but you could see, look, there's you got a guy like Kobe he's obviously doing a character, but it's
Yeah.
his own thing. Like this guy is a cookie cutter. Like they're like, all right, you got to give us that Connor. But he even does the Vince McMahon $1 million strikes. Like dude, like hop off the dick. Like you guys seen that this worked for one guy, right? But that guy's a charismatic figure that happened to be kind of like he before he started doing blow every week, every other freaking minute and getting hammered off the whiskey, the guy was witty. He was quick with his tongue, man. Like the guy would. There's not a lot of people that can emulate that. You can go around and are super quick on their feet and charismatic like that. So I see a lot of people try to emulate that behavior, but you can do it with your own personality, your own flair. You can be your own wrestling character. You don't have to come up and try to be The Rock. You know what I mean? Because
Look,
he was
Moose,
popular.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Be your own individual, but I want to defend some of these fighters too, because one of the problems in sports in general is when you put everything into a physical activity, just like a woman putting everything into her looks, it inevitably is not going to last forever. So I'm pretty sure all these people are aware that if they're a boring personality, even if they win, no matter
Mhm.
what, you have a short shelf life. Look at the early days of UFC where it was full of characters, right? Even today, the Gracie name still means something, even though they lost a series of embarrassing fights through the years after their initial come out in public. You know, it was pretty embarrassing from then on. But, you know, we grew up with people like Chuck Liddell and that that guy
Tito Ortiz
Tito Ortiz and
Actually,
even think guys like Matt Hughes, who really his personality is more about being a humble farm boy. Tragic what happened to him getting hit by that train, but they had personalities, and that's the only way that they can do something else. As you know, as a fighter, you either fight or you coach. I mean, this is basically your lifespan. Your lifespan in the ring is quite short, and your real only option outside of that is coaching, unless you show some kind of personality. Because even the Chuck Liddells and the Tito Ortizes, they got in movies, small parts in different movies and stuff. And this is what you need to get paid. And of course, we know that the vast majority of athletes in general don't make money. It's hard to make a living. It's hard to get into the big leagues. And when you do, you might not last that long. You might get a concussion or an injury and you might be out. You might have made $3 million for that year, and that might be it. That's got to last the rest of your life, unless you have enough of a personality to sign brand deals and stuff. And we know in the UFC, they took that away from fighters. This is a big controversy, right? Where they stopped letting them wear their own advertising on their shorts and stuff, and some of them are painting them on their back and stuff. That's what you got to do to get paid. And yeah, the winner gets paid good money, but it doesn't pay for all the training, the diets, the supplements. These guys can't work at a bank and train UFC part-time. You have to do this full-time. Same with any serious sport. Golf, you have to be on the field all the time. Your training is expensive, your nutrition's expensive, your coaching's expensive, and you probably have a family that you have to support at the same time. And so what? You get 100 grand for winning the fight, or so what? You get a bonus for having the best fight of the night or whatever. Still, you add that up into the years that it took to get there. Most of them were very poor in those years before they even got to the big leagues. And even when they get that payday, it hardly makes up for it. I'm just saying, just as a little excuse here, if you don't have a big personality, you do kind of have to emulate somebody if you have any hope at doing any sort of a brand deal.
Yeah,
because
but
Adidas is not going to pay you if you're boring.
Yo, so Conor McGregor, I don't even believe he's like 100% the best fighter, but he was the best advertisement for UFC, and he played that game so well. And he made so much fucking money. He's actually a very intelligent person because of how he brought all this attraction to the sport. He's not even, I wouldn't even say he's that good of a fighter. He got lucky in some fights. You know what I mean? And we like him. We like his attitude. We like his bravado. He's just a fucking crazy dude. And you know what? Everyone just started attracting him. Whether you didn't like him, you liked him. You know what I mean? And this guy made a shitload of money because he advertised himself very, very well. And he's a very smart dude.
He's entertaining. This is sports entertainment.
Yeah, like
we're here for entertainment.
No, I understand that too. And I understand that people have to play a character and you have to do a little bit of this. But there's also GSP never played a character, right? And
that's a lot of people complained about it though, right? They thought his fights were boring, even though he kept winning.
But now everybody thinks of him as the humble GOAT. Like, you know what I mean? Now in hindsight, you're like, yo, that's how you should have done it. You don't have this fucking tainted legacy of talking shit and all these. The worst thing that you have GSP on camera doing is, I am not impressed with your performance. That was the extent of GSP's on camera shit talking. And then other than that, he's still a legend, dude. People still love him, and it's because he and I think you're gonna get that with a lot of people that you have some straight shooters, right? Some guys that are just there to be martial artists and bang out. Obviously, they're not the guys that get the bag, right? And you got a guy like Chael Sonnen, who is like legendary mouthpiece, right? And he's always been that guy. And I don't think you'll ever get another, not ever, but it's like one in every 3,000 fighters has the mouth to go with the hands. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's a very rare thing.
I totally agree with what you're saying, but and there's 2 points that I wanted to make here. One's about Kamaru Usman, and then the other thing that Ryan was saying is that there's people like Clay Guida that he's been a union carpenter for his entire UFC career, right? Demetrius Johnson was in construction before
BJ, yeah. So was fucking Marab. He just fought on the weekend. There's been pictures of him with his cauliflower ear and his construction hat on.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, man, is that a lot of these fighters, they get delusional, right? And they should have jobs, realistically. I mean, you can train and you can also work a job, right? I mean, I know that that's tough and it's stretching for a lot of people, but people that aren't even ever going to sniff a title fight are sitting here taking this. They fight 2 or 3 times a year, maybe making $50,000 per fight. There's not really any insurance or anything that goes along with that. There is like basic insurance that they get, but they're not getting a 401k. They're not able to set that money aside, really. So if you think about it, let's say your career in the UFC is 8 years, right? It's usually not 10 years. So it's eight's fairly generous for a lower level fighter. That's what we're talking about here. You make $150,000 over 8 years, and that's your lifetime money. That's not a lot. And especially with the way things are going, that's going to be like $20 in the future, it seems like, right? So I think a lot of these guys need to be realistic, have a job until you get to that point. where you're at the level where you're going to start sniffing title fights and even rankings. I mean, there's some of these dudes that aren't even ranked that don't have jobs on the side. And they do need to be paid more, I think, but that's not my position to say that. Um, and the next thing, man, Kamaru Usman, not the greatest personality, but this dude's found a way to make a ton of money. I mean, he's in Black Panther. He really leans into his culture and it seems sincere. And I'm not a big fan of the guy, but I do miss like those glory days before he took that head kick from Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
This dude was fighting all the time. And
Dude, he
that's
beat
how
the division twice, basically. He's like, "Who? I'm lapping this whole fucking division." He's like, "Bring him back. Bring everybody who's a challenger back."
and he's
Yeah.
getting the pay-per-view points, right? He's getting all kinds of money by doing it the right way. And Dana White recently said people are going to miss this guy when he's gone. Everyone talks crap about him, but when he's not fighting anymore, it's going to be a little bit different because, Leon Edwards, talented dude, fights 2 times a year max. You know what I mean? Max. And
We got to wait years for Johnny Bones to come back.
Johnny,
Yeah.
this guy, they just opened the roster. Hey, like those guys like Jones and Connor that they do snake shit for all the time. Like they'll open the roster, they get rid of USADA, so Connor's pee doesn't melt the cup. Like, you know what I mean? They don't have to do the this
Yeah.
guy 245 stacked in 3 months. I was like, how do you with the broken leg you got that jacked? That was
Yeah.
crazy. Like,
Yeah, I love that fight by him and Dustin too. That was just Dustin Poirier is one of my favorite fighters, probably my favorite fighter. But it's just interesting how it works for some guys and doesn't for others, right? There's superstars like your Israel Adesanya's, and then there's kind of guys that fly a little more under the radar to the casuals. And there's nothing wrong with being a casual, by the way. I think it's actually more healthy to be a casual sport viewer, right?
yeah,
People
probably.
make fun of people for being a casual. It's like, oh, you casually enjoy a sport. What an asshole you are. You know what I mean? What are we talking about? But yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Dean. What do you think? I like Dustin Poirier too. I really like him as a fighter. What do you think his net worth would be? Because he's never been anything like he's always been consistent, but he's never gained like a super amount of success. What do you think he would be worth today?
I think he's worth a ton because of the 2 pay-per-view fights with Connor and his
Yeah.
hot sauce company.
6
So-
million. 6 million is what Google says. CelebrityNetWorth.com.
I was gonna say like 2.5.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 6 sounds right because he's talked about several times. He's like, I'm not interested in these lower level fights. I want championship prize fights now. Like
Yeah.
he has to fight this up and comer Benoit Saint Denis, who's a killer.
Yeah.
And he wasn't into it, but he took it because he kind of has to now at a certain point. But yeah, man, Dustin, I think he's smart. The charity that he does, we know there's a lot of money in charity work. There is in nonprofit, right? There's tons of money to be made in nonprofits, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
And yeah, his hot sauce deal. He's got the deal with the UFC as the UFC's official hot sauce. So it's in every, venue that they go to. There's the Diamond Hot Sauce or whatever the hell it's called. But the streaming that some people do, Sean O'Malley, big superstar. This dude makes so much more money when he's not fighting, but he used that stage that the UFC gives you and he parlayed it into something else. And I think that's just savviness. I think that's natural for some people. And then some people want to go in there and they don't even necessarily care about the money. They just want the legacy. So it depends on where you're coming from. But I think that you have to treat it like a business. You have to parlay it into something else.
If you want the
You think
legacy, you
Dustin-
should have a personality as well.
Do you think Dustin Poirier taking like he is good, but he's fucking beaten, dude, man. He's taking mad hits. Do you think that's fucking worth $6 million? You know what I mean? Like that won't be worth shit in fucking 20 years.
Yeah, how the fuck else was he gonna do it laboring at construction sites? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, I know,
Say-
but
yeah.
either way, I'm just saying that's a lot of beatings. I'm not saying it's not good money, but I'm saying for the amount of beatings, like his body, like you said, Moose, is probably mangled.
yeah,
Mangled.
Poirier is a good box. He hasn't taken like I would say if you're talking about like you know what I mean, motherfuckers have taken like some severe damage to the
Ferguson.
body.
Guys,
Tony, perfect. That is an example.
Yeah, but
That
you'll
mother-
feel it later, will you not? Like just because you don't have it now, like later, like, a lot of guys get hip replacements.
I'm not gonna say Dean is 100% right on this one here, bro. Like Ferguson will let his fucking knee pop off in a submission. He's let his arm pop off in submissions. He's like, he will take that damage and keep coming. Like, to me, that's probably not worth it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Dustin is a great boxer. Like, if he got like a KO sucks. Like, repetitive KOs, sure, they could lead to some serious damage in the end. But I don't think he's been on the on the end of a lot of vicious KOs.
Still, guys,
No, I'm not,
Moose,
I'm
you're
not even
using
saying that, guys. I'm just saying long term, guys. Because like even as like me as a
guys, for all of you, you're missing the point. You can have a traumatic brain injury with one hit,
Yeah,
just one
yeah.
hit. And so when you're like, oh, they haven't taken a lot of hits, okay, well, they've taken a lot more than I have.
I'm
You
just
know,
saying, I'm just saying, Moose, like you've trained for 16 years, you know what I mean? Like probably some of your chronic injuries or your chronic pain is from years of abuse. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
yeah, for
you
sure.
might, if you don't really do some deep therapy
Yeah, but
down later to your life, you might not be walking properly.
I did it for $5 fucking gold medals, and there's no like I got a bag of fucking gold and silver medals that are literally worth $5. Like, and I fucking that's my to show for it. This guy
Yeah.
put in that same work and probably due to the fact that he has the money is probably going to be able to recover and take care of his body way more than I will. Right. So I've done this exact, I've put myself through the ringer too, and people do it all the time for nothing, for
Mhm.
way less than the $6 million. So trust
Yeah.
me, there's an aspect you're going to do. Like, if you're truly a fighter, this is going to come to you one way or another. You're going to be in there with or without the paycheck. It's just something that's going to be part of you. God willing, there's a paycheck at the end of it. God willing, there is $6 million at the end of
hopefully.
it. Yeah, God willing. Like,
So,
Well,
guys,
it's better, listen, it's better than what I do because a lot of guys that are in trades walk sideways when they go to retire or can't even
right?
walk at all.
very, very similar. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, we spent a lot of time on the positive, to be honest. We've touched on the negative. I think we
There are no
should.
negatives.
I think we should shift gears. Ryan, you said something very interesting before we started recording. You said that the bare knuckle leagues could actually be less harmful for the receiver of those punches than someone wearing a glove. Can you speak on this?
Yeah. So, and this isn't just because, I work with these folks, but they've shared this information. Nothing too secret. I mean, this is why it's starting to get, sanctioned in more states. I mean, California, they're doing an event out there in California. Now, I said that and I was like, oh shit, maybe that's not ready yet, but it is public information now. They do this Knucklemania thing. It's kind of like just a big event, kind of emulating WrestleMania, right? And California, I mean, they are the gold standard. I'm not a fan of California, but they really are the gold standard when it comes to MMA commissions. They're very, very good. Actually, Ronda Rousey's mother is
Oh, no way.
on the California State Commission, and they're good at what they do, man. Texas is not good with theirs. I don't know how Arizona's is, but just
What do you mean by good and not good? What makes a commission good?
I guess thorough. They go about like the weight cutting. I mean, they supply the referees sometimes. I mean, obviously there's referees that work with the different
Organizations.
leagues or organizations, but you'll see like the same referee in the UFC that you could also see in BKFC or Bellator, and it's slap fighting now too, right? Which that's something we should touch on at least because that's a wild thing if we're talking about like brain injuries.
Free brain damage, man. What?
It's wild. But so when I say good, I think organized. They're consistent. You know what I mean? And they really know their shit when it comes to the rules, right? But there was this idea that bare knuckle fighting was never going to get sanctioned in places like that in Nevada. Nevada's also very good at what they do with them when it comes to the commission. And they're realizing that when you have these 16-ounce gloves on, you're throwing at 100% usually, right? I mean, obviously there's some calculated, let me back off and recover a little bit and all this stuff. But with a bare knuckle, you're not able to, you have to punch a certain way, right? Your hand's going to break if you get a little bit careless or if you just throw bombs constantly. And there's not as much weight going in there. I don't know if you've seen those punch machines, right? Where like a little bag, you punch that, and it reads how heavy you're punching. Francis Ngannou, hardest puncher, in MMA history. This dude, they said he hits with the force of a Ford Taurus. I don't know how you quantify that, but that's what they said. Dude hits like a beast. This guy Joe Pyfer that I mentioned hit one of those with a 16-ounce glove and beat Francis Ngannou's record on those punching machines. That's not because he hits harder. Now, Dana White, who loves Joe Pyfer, is marketing it this way. This guy hits harder than Francis Ngannou, all this stuff, even though he's 2 weight divisions lower, right? Francis is a heavyweight, this dude's a middleweight. That right there to me is proof And Joe Pyfer was trying to spin this like I even did it with a 16-ounce glove on and all this stuff. And it's like, dude, if I had to take a punch from you, it's possible I could still stand up. Possible, not probable, possible. Francis touches you, dude, you're done. You're sleeping on the floor. This dude knocks people out. And that's just like a slight bullet point there. It's like, it makes sense. You have weight on your hand and you're throwing it as hard as you can. It's gonna give more concussive
Well, he
blows.
turned Overeem into a Pez dispenser. He
Oh
literally,
yeah, dude, that was scary. You know what I mean? But you think about it too. You can take more damage from the boxing gloves, right? You get hit over and over and over again. With a bare knuckle, it's probably going to cut you long before you're able to continue and take 50, 60, 80 punches. You know what I mean? A lot of these things don't land flush. And I don't know. There's just more surface area on these boxing gloves, man. And it makes for a lot more damage that you don't see.
In the bare knuckle leagues,
Like
are their wrists wrapped?
Yeah, their wrists are wrapped.
Yeah.
It has to be like an inch below the knuckle. So, you got some stabilization on your wrists a little bit. But like I said, I've never been to an event. I've never really seen like that side of the business. But you think about it, if you really break it down, it seems safer. Traditional boxing is just normalized. It's been around forever, right? Bare knuckle's been around forever too, but it hasn't been sanctioned. And once there is a referee, once there is a commission and a ringside doctor, right? There's these ringside physicians at all these things, and they're very careful, especially right now, trying to get sanctioned in every state and different countries. If it's sketchy, man, they're calling the fight. If the doctor is iffy about this cut getting worse, it's done. So it makes for great entertaining fights. These things are quickly paced, 2-minute rounds and whatnot. And yeah, if you really start thinking about it, it seems safer. Does it not? I mean, from your perspective, Ryan, does it seem like maybe throwing 16 ounces on your hand and then just chucking bombs would be safer than maybe taking more calculated bare knuckle punches?
I completely see what you're saying here. I mean, off camera, Luke mentioned that he broke his hand hitting with the last two knuckles, right? So I even know I was not a fighter at all, but I know if we throw on buckets and gloves, we called it, you're way more confident, and I'll throw some haymakers, but I'm going to be scared to actually hurt my hand. And I actually did that too with a friend. I went to punch a friend, and actually he wasn't my friend at that moment. I was really trying to punch him, but he blocked it with his cast on his arm, and I hit his cast. And yeah, my hand is forever altered, and I've got a scar there now. And I'm not going to throw those types of punches in the future, to be honest. You're going to be more careful about hurting yourself for sure.
Like even the concussion protocol, right? So you put on a pair of UFC gloves, you hit somebody in the head fucking twice as hard as you would hit somebody with a bare knuckle. I do get what you're saying with that because internally your body's probably way more mangled than on the outside, right? You're getting hit by blocks instead of blades.
Your brain's still rattling around, yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Bare knuckle boxing is probably a lot safer. You're probably going to see more cuts.
That's it. So it shows the damage on the cuts a lot more, and that's a good, like, you're probably just gonna get more cut and less concussions. Well, probably not less concussions. That's a fucking wild thing to say. You're still getting bonked in the head, but I think the fight is usually a little bit quicker, anyways.
Yeah.
Too, like from what I've seen too, and then what you've seen fucking. You see some pretty catastrophic damage sometimes. Like you saw Luke's mouth got bust up when he fought. Rockhold fought in there. He fought Perry and Mike Perry. You don't want to fight an African brother. Bare knuckle, that's crazy.
Yeah, dude. He's 2% black.
2%, baby.
I love that dude, man. And I didn't really care about him too much. And that's another thing, just going back to the business perspective, just slightly, is that he found his lane in this.
That's him, 100%. That's his thing.
He is the face of a company now. Where in the UFC, he wasn't really cutting it. He got knocked out by my dude Jeff Neal. I'm a big fan of Jeff Neal, and Jeff Neal is good, but he's not going to get a title there. And now, Mike Perry's the king of violence in BKFC. He's got a belt, kind of like the UFC's BAMF belt. So yeah, dude, you just got to find like what's your niche. Like these jiu-jitsu tournaments for people, incredible way to make some money, and yeah, maybe you're going to get like thrown into a leg lock and damage your knee or your ankle or something. But I mean, if you got to weigh the risks in each one of these things, and I think people find their lanes, and that's part of being a businessman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
I think even the downside of this, guys, like you could just hop in your car and get fucking mangled. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things you get mangled by. Fighting obviously a lot more, but everything's dangerous. But I think like the pros definitely outweigh the cons of this tenfold.
Yeah, and
Well,
these guys know what they're getting into. You know, my dad is not a fan of this stuff. He kind of used to be when I was younger. But he can't look at some. I tried to show him one of the first events that I was working for the company with, and he turned it on, and like one of the first punches that was thrown, like blood splattered on the camera.
Yeah.
I can't watch this. You know, he's not into it. But I told him, I was like, you know, these guys sign a waiver. They know exactly what they're getting into. And it's not like you're just watching some poor dude get his ass beat by someone that's far outskilling him. Now, sometimes it happens, but they know the risk. They know that they're stepping in there and they're willingly getting in there to potentially get themselves knocked out or hurt.
Well,
But
Moose said something interesting earlier, and Moose, I don't agree that you've got nothing else really. I mean, you've got art, but even just like me too, it's like art
I
is
know.
is not really a career that you can look forward to very much in, especially in terms of glory. Glory is something that is not easily available yet. Many people, not everybody, but especially many men and some women, they want it. They want it, at any cost, basically. And so you're right. They know what they're getting into. And if it weren't for that glory factor, I don't think any of them would really do it because it can't really be for the money. It's not a smart career move to be a 12-year-old and be like, you know what, I'm going to devote myself to any sport, honestly, hockey, basketball, because it's such low odds that you are actually going to make it to the big leagues and that you're going to make any money with it. You're more likely to get hurt, get injured, and you waste your time and honestly be 36 and broke, living at your parents, like, oh man, I got to go work at a grocery store now. Or some of those guys sound smart, hey, like working construction while you're doing this. At least you're still lifting and being active, and when having a backup plan though is kind of what I'm saying. So the only real reason to fully go and commit yourself into combat sports would be for the glory, and that's just something it's not scientific, it's not an intellectual won't understand that, it's not stable, it's like against all the things that we're taught to do in life, to build up a proper stable life and achieve happiness. But for some people, that glory factor is so strong that they won't be satisfied until they get it, until they experience it just once, just holding up their arm with that ref at the end of the fight. You can see it in a lot of them when they do get to the big stage. They're pumped to be there, sure, but when they win, you see these guys breaking down in tears,
Oh, yeah.
and it must be the most overwhelmingly powerful feeling, even just for that moment. And I'm sure they'll carry it with them for the rest of their lives.
Well, I think Luke touched on this earlier, man. Like you have a solid trade that you're into, right? Plumbing is such a solid gig
But
to
you'll
be.
never feel that from plumbing,
Well,
you
and
know?
that's what I'm saying. And that's why he like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's probably why you want to get into the gym and spar, right? You're not necessarily going out there and trying to fight for a title, but you're going out there and you want to feel like, oh yeah, I knocked that dude out, or maybe you're not fighting to knock anyone out. But like I'll use myself as an example, dude. Like I'll never like cheer for anything that I do at my job, right? It'd be like me answering someone's question in an email and then doing a victory dance. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to do that in our lines of work, right? Ryan, I don't know how, if you can, celebrate like that, like, anything close to winning a title, even though your work is very fulfilling for you, right?
It's still not close. We get a great success, and yes, it feels good, but it's not like that.
It
It's
can't
a
be.
No, it's
relief. If anything, it's
satisfying.
a relief because
Yeah.
having the case stresses me out, and I just want to help them. And like, if they don't get their result, I'm more stressed. But
You
when they
know,
finally do, I'm just like, oh, okay. But I
Relief
have
is
to, yeah. It's not me holding up my hand, crying with the ref in the ring.
right.
like
People
me
cheering.
satisfying something is like, okay, I go and do something for you guys, and you're out of luck, and I fucking helped you out. That's me going like this, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that makes me feel good.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's probably the closest thing. But yeah, there's no satisfying in what I do. Like there, like to a point, I've done it for so long.
I
I
don't
feel
know,
more
man.
satisfied doing it for free, helping someone else, saving them from a $50,000 disaster or
Yeah.
something. That is satisfying. That's probably the closest. But going back to sparring and stuff, I just want to do it because I got a lot of energy, man.
You need
Like
to let out, but like with building though, I'm gonna disagree because there is glory in building. I used to be a roofer for a long time and just when you run like I'm sure like Luke, the first time you ran your own project completely, or you did something from start to finish, where you walked in and you're like, you could step back from that. It's the same thing as like when you do a painting, bro. It's that step back when the piece is over and you're like, nice,
It's just
nice.
it's a smaller
It's
scale though of
For
glory.
sure, for sure.
All right, quick break here while I tell you about my favorite bookstore, thriftbooks.com. And I'm genuinely excited to have an affiliate link with them. I buy almost all of my books off thriftbooks.com. After many years of using actual thrift stores to buy most of my books, thriftbooks.com is a huge relief. I almost always find what I'm looking for, and since I am mostly looking for older books, they tend to be a really great deal. Almost always it's the best price, and many times it's the only place that I can find the books. I've got just over 100 books in my wish list, and 95 of them are in stock right now. With a $15 order or more, you get free shipping. Really great. Only in the USA though, unfortunately. Free shipping in the USA, $15 or more order. And you get points, which add up to free books, which is my favorite thing ever. They got all these specials with extra points for certain things, and yeah, every few orders basically I get a free book. Got a free book on my birthday, which is a one-way ticket to my heart. So I highly recommend thriftbooks.com. And I don't have a discount code for you. I asked them for one and they said, we already have the best prices basically, which is an answer I respect. But I do have a link where I will get a commission, 3% if you're a new customer and 2% if you're a returning customer, which isn't much, but it sounds great to me. I'm happy to promote thriftbooks.com in any case. And I would appreciate it if you did use my link. It is in the description. And now we can get back to the episode.
For sure it is.
Like for me, I don't know if I don't know. Like I'm glad that Dean found the job that he loves. For me, I was pushed in this direction because it's either go to school and go in debt or go make money. So this is a choice when I was 18. So I stay here because I do make good money. I wouldn't say my goals in life is to do something like this, like talking with you gentlemen here, and setting my life up free and doing it when I want to do it, not force. I'm a big believer of freeing up my time so I can do the things that I enjoy. And I don't know if I enjoy doing what I do. I enjoy helping you. I enjoy being good at it. I don't want to wake up and be forced to go somewhere every day.
Mhm.
I don't think any of you guys do, right? So,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't say I truly love it enough to be like, you know what, if I did have the money to free up my time, I don't think I'd go.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. Like I remember just dreading certain days, fucking
It's
like
fucking shit, man.
yeah,
Like,
just waking up and having to go to job at like wake up 5:30 and be like, ah,
I'm up at fucking 3 in the morning, dude. Yeah,
yeah.
I make fucking great money. I make more than most people do. But I'll take if I took most of the people from the white collar world and brought them to the blue collar one, they'd fucking cry and go home. They'd be like, this is fucked.
Well, dude, yeah, that's why, and I on my show, I ironically talk shit about women. It's a total joke. I'm not a womanizer. I'm not a, what do you call it, what is it, misogynist?
Misogynist.
I joke about the stuff because it's funny. It's like a boys versus
It is
girls.
very funny.
But
Yeah.
you don't see many women plumbers, man. You don't see, like, women always want the same jobs and the same opportunities, which they deserve. But you're not going to see like roofers that are women. You're not going to see many electricians that are women because it isn't a glamorous job. But it's, I mean, dude, you make some money. Like you're still in a lucky position, fortunate position. I use that word too much, Luke, because you're doing something that, yeah, it's not the funnest thing, but you are making more money than a lot of people. And a lot of people are stuck doing that shit at grocery stores where they're not making much money and they don't feel any fulfillment whatsoever, even when they get thanked by, the customer that they bagged all their groceries and then, the person's like, hey, thank you. You walk them out to the car, whatever the cake, whatever they do at these grocery stores, it's not as fulfilling and they're not making money. So that, like, that's the majority of people, dude, that hate what they're doing and they're still broke. Like that was me before I found this job. So, yeah, dude, like, I don't think that you're in a bad position personally. I don't know the full details of it, but dude, there's people that I feel bad for, man, just stuck in like a gas station job and they don't want to be there, and they're making money.
Let me jump in on this then, because stress and depression are some of the most unhealthy things that you could possibly do. So someone like me, I don't put myself into physical danger really, I guess other than cross country drives, and I do speed, it's dangerous. But I think almost all of us, especially in this world right now where things are so expensive and everything, you have no choice but to work hard. Again, most of us, unless you're left money or something like that, and we weren't any of us here, so we have to work hard. And even in me, I work on a computer, and yet I'm still consciously sacrificing my health and my mental health. Some of it, I have to pay attention to this because it's a tough job. I don't work plumbing. It doesn't beat up my body, but it beats up my mind. It beats up my emotions, dealing with sick people, dealing with people at their worst. And, for the last year or so, it's been crazy busy. I literally work 12 hours a day at a minimum. And today's a Saturday. We're doing this here on a Saturday. I will work the rest of the day because I have to. I have some things to do tomorrow. I mean, it's not something I want to do. I'm not subscribing to the grind until you die, burn the candle at both ends. I don't actually want to do that. It's just I actually need to do it. First of all, a lot of people need our help. Second of all, I have bills to pay and a family and stuff like that, and I have goals, and it just needs to be done. I'm just saying that working at a gas station to me could be just as dangerous as combat sports. It's different.
Probably more dangerous, dog.
It's a different type of risk, but they're risking their mental health. They're risking not having that confidence, that mastery, that maturity, right, that comes with getting good at something. I'm talking any low level job. If it's not building you as a person, that's dangerous because depression is more deadly than traumatic brain injuries, in my opinion. To be honest, it's more destructive. It's more deadly. And a lot of jobs out there are not providing any sort of self-satisfaction or self-actualization. And even for me, in a job that does have self-actualization and satisfaction, we do get good feedback, we do help people, it makes me feel good. But I am again consciously hurting myself. Sitting on the computer for 12 plus hours a day is not healthy. I know this. I understand this. It's costing my body. It's costing my mental health. It's costing my relationships. And I'm actually getting ready for a fairly large career shift. Things are going to change very soon. I'm going to keep that secret until it actually happens. But it's because of this. It's because anything that you have to do in this, like, I can't think of any exceptions here. Honestly, I know teachers who the stress could kill them and genuinely kill them. They can't wait for the bell to ring, so they go home and drink a bottle of wine. And that type of stuff can be absolutely just as destructive as beating your body up on the football field or in the ring.
Yeah. 1,000%, man. Yeah, it's well put too, because the damage we're talking about, concussions and stuff. The worst damage is the stuff that you can't see, dude. Like always. That's why, we're talking about like getting a cut versus having a concussion. This depression, you can't see it a lot of the time on people.
Yeah, for my job that I get paid well, since I run jobs, there's a lot of mental and physical. So it's like when you say like, yeah, I get paid well, buddy, they get their fucking money's worth. Don't kid yourself, eh? As soon as you start making over 100 grand a year, you fucking work for that 100 grand a year, whether it's physically or mentally. Like I'm dealing with multi-million-dollar jobs just on mechanical ends, right? Like if you want to stack groceries, I get it. And you know what? Those jobs should be for people 25 and under, like 20 in their 20s. You know what I mean? That should just be for them. And any other jobs besides that, like any like starter jobs, like working at Tim Hortons, working at the gas station, filling grocery bags, being a clerk, right? That should be for the younger kids to get into the workforce world if that's where we're going. If you're going to stay there your whole life, and Dean, I guess some people don't have choices, they're stuck in certain circumstances. But
Right.
if you live in Canada and America, and we don't live in a third world country, you have a choice of everything that you do. And if you want to stack grocery bags and be a clerk for the rest of your life for $15 an hour, well, that's your choice. You know what I mean? It's not like we're living on the streets. But if you live somewhere or you have nothing, and you have to start there. Some of the richest people in the world, man, make the most money because they've come from nothing, right?
Yep.
I feel bad for them too. I think the end goal for me is like I love that you like to work at your job. If I can get one of those, like I love podcasting with you guys. I love being in Ryan's field. And I know Ryan likes his job to a certain degree, but if he could free up more of his time and do more of this, I'm sure he'd be a lot more happy, right?
That is the plan. You can't, doctors can't, I'm not a doctor, but doctors can't do it full time. I've said this all the time. They have to golf. They have to golf. They have to go fishing. They have to take vacations, or it will kill you. It will absolutely kill you. The lifespan of a doctor is shorter than the patient. It's shorter than the average citizen, right? And it's not just because, well, they do make some bad choices. Some of them, they're not perfect people at all, but it's an extremely stressful job. And no, I wouldn't do this for 12 hours a day. Are you insane? No. And I've been in a series of moves here and changing the way that I do things. And those changes are going to come up soon. I think we can shift right into the ugly. This is kind of be the last phase here. We've spoken on some of the bad. Obviously, just the obvious. You could get incredibly hurt. There could be incredible injuries and life-altering brain damage, and that's a possibility. It is also a possibility for the rest of us who just walking down the street, we could get hit by a car, struck by lightning. I mean, there's always risk in life, but obviously combat sports increases that risk of serious injury. And, even some of them that are just more dramatic, like those guys that break their leg when they kick somebody and stuff. It's hard to watch, but at least that's better than brain damage to me. I think I'd rather break my leg than have brain damage. I don't know what it's like to have brain damage, but I think maybe one of the ugliest things in combat sports is weight cutting. What do you guys think about this?
Bar none, especially if you come from that wrestler background where they're like trained from high school to start like from a young age. These guys, even younger than high school, depending on what state you're in. If you're in them Pennsylvania boys, they start wrestling early. Like they have like kids circuits wrestling. They're cutting. There's 8-year-old kids trying to cut 3 pounds when they weigh like that's like a sizable percentage of your body weight. You know what I mean? For me to cut 3 pounds, I weigh $180. When you weigh 68 pounds and they're like, yo, cut 3 pounds. What the fuck are you talking about? Like you're making a kid like it's insane to me. And this is a culture that's bred into these kids. And they even go way more hardcore with fighting. And to me, the jankiest part about the weight cut is the hydration loss, which affects okay, so when you dehydrate yourself, that little goo ball around your brain is also protected by a shell of like there's like the shell of liquid around your brain, and that requires you to be hydrated for it to work its best. So when you take a serious weight cut, you're also more susceptible to serious knockouts, in my opinion. And I think it's like,
Yeah.
and I think it's also it's a culture that it's so weird in fighting, dude. You got guys that are like walk around at like 225 fighting at $150. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Come
Like,
on, that's a bit of an exaggeration.
No, dude, there is. There definitely is.
No,
There's
that's
definitely is
hilarious.
guys who do like 50, 60-pound weight cuts. Or
Stop
like
it, really.
or definitely were a frame before. Like there were big boys cut down to a walk around weight of like 185 and keep it there so they can cut down the extra 20, 30 when they're fighting. It's like, dude, that does exist. The 220 is a stretch, obviously, but you definitely have some guys that maybe are doing like $175, $180 that fight at 145.
It's a weird thing because in other sports you don't have this. In basketball you could have Steve Nash against Shaq. Like you can be whatever size you want as long as you're good at your position. You can get a place on a team. In any other league that I'm aware of, it's only fighting that you really have to weight cut. Am I wrong?
Do you think
I know, yeah.
do you think that a guy that's 225 and has to cut down to 185 and has to lose, or versus a guy that's 170 and has to eat to 185, who do you think has the upper advantage? The big dude?
That's the theory. The theory is that weight cutting theory comes from the fact that they assume that you'd have the advantage coming from a larger frame and stepping down. But often what happens is, and I've this is from my own competition like experience. So obviously this is like circumstantial, but this is what from what I've experienced. I often find that hard weight cuts before a competition or all this stuff like that also takes a lot out of you. I rather spend the time like I will never cut for a jiu-jitsu competition unless it's like I need to take a shit and a light jog. That's the extent of it. Like if I need to do more than that, I'm not cutting weight for it. But there you see a lot of people that will like, oh, I need to weigh less to fight. Like I think that's like I think it's a false advantage that you perceive in your head. I rather go in there well rested and fed and ready to bang out than mentally stressed out about my weight, trying to be there cutting. Like fuck it, man. I roll with guys that weigh more than me, way less than me all the time. So it's not like I'm gonna have the choice of who I want to fight, and I'm be like in real life, you just have to deal with the weight that the universe chooses for you.
Right.
Honestly, I think this actually harms us as fans as well. Talked earlier that like seeing people at their peak, even if it's just like gymnastics or whatever, dance, I know, musician on stage crushing it, whatever it is, it feels good to watch it and participate and be there. But when you know that a lot of these guys and girls had to cut 10, 20, 30 pounds to do that and know what torment that is on their body, it takes a little bit of enjoyment away from me. It makes it a little bit sad. Like I was into bodybuilding earlier in my life, and I know that anyone who's on stage is like the least healthy they'll ever be at that moment. And it's weird looking at them that way because, they look much healthier when they're a little bit more filled out and stuff, but they do these crazy dehydration regimens before they go on stage, and they might pass out on stage, man. This might cause serious long-term health problems for you. So it's not healthy at all. Dehydration in the short term is not healthy, and stretching it out like that is incredibly unhealthy. So it's just a little bit less fun to watch them doing that. And obviously, we all know many fights have been canceled because someone didn't make weight, and it's kind of lame. If little guy wants to fight big guy and they both want to do it, they both hate each other and or whatever, and someone's got something to. I don't care about the belt. Let them fight. It's very, very annoying to see fights not happen because of the weight. And I don't know if you guys agree with this. The weight classes go every 10 pounds right now, and there's so many weight classes now. It's insane that each class has gotten to me a lot more boring than it used to be, right? Am I wrong? It used to just kind of be lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight, and now they've got classes in between all of those, and so there's less fighters in each class. Like this is boring to me. I'd rather have it a wider net so that there's a less extreme inclination to weight climb. I think that's partially some of the solution here. Broaden the weight classes a bit.
No, no, that's the reverse. You get the reverse effect with that actually. So if you have fewer weight classes, then you have more people fighting outside their natural weight, right? So if you have the option of way more weight classes, then okay, well, if I have to cut I'd rather cut 5 pounds than 25 pounds, right? Because the UFC used to go 15-pound gaps, I believe, right? It was something like that. So it was like, that's a pretty huge chunk, man. So if you add more more increments for the weight, you're right. It does kind of limit the pool of fighters per weight class. But I believe like fighting more towards your natural weight is beneficial for people in combat sports in the long run. I feel like drastic cuts are also devastating to the body. Like you have people with kidney failure, shut down, full like just crazy shit happens to people from weight cuts. I'm not sure if you like. Dean will tell you that Hamza Shamaev was this guy who was like he's like a phenom that people were rating out the gates. He was fighting. That guy was over 200 fighting at like I think 175. Or once what was he fighting at? He was welterweight. He was fighting at welterweight or some shit like that.
If you're talking about Hamza, yeah, he was trying to get to welterweight, which is 170, and
170. And he's a big boy.
Yeah.
205er, easy.
That's nuts.
This guy was doing that cut consistently. Can't even physically do it in his like he has like he's his body shut down and he just physically can't cut that weight anymore. So he had to go up just from his body being like, nah, I'm not fucking doing this anymore, man. It's done. Like and that's one of the things that like
you got actors doing this too, right? Christian Bale, he finally said, I'm not doing any weight changes anymore. Just not doing it because they realize this is literally killing them. It's not worth the millions of dollars.
That was extreme too. He was taking it extreme though.
Yeah, but like the weight cutting, can you do it like throughout a duration of time where it doesn't affect your fucking health? Like what happens if you actually could cut to that in a healthy way, not being anorexic or too obese, or you know what I mean?
Then you're losing the advantage, the perceived advantage, right? Part of this thing is like, oh, I'm actually at 185, but I'm cutting down to 160. So the theory is you're keeping that power. But if you actually just stay at 165, you lost the so-called advantage.
But so here's the thing, right? Like you cut this weight and you're right. You're right. It does do a disservice to you, but Ryan, how quickly you bounce back from that mass loss, right? So especially if it's hydration, you can cut a fuck ton of water out of your body, right? And you can be bare bones. The thing that happened, this is why they had that perceived advantage. You cut. There is a healthy way to do it. Yes, there is a healthy way to do it, but especially if you come from the wrestling background, it's not often that you do it that way. You're probably going to be doing a majority of your weight cutting, or a good chunk of it towards when you have to be on the scale. You do a crazy cut before you get on the scale. You weigh, whatever they want you to weigh, 155, and then the next day you're probably back to 165, 170. So you
Doesn't
only
this kind
need
of defeat the purpose of it, anyways?
Yeah, I think it's gay. I think that's fucking annoying. I think that's whack. I think coming back,
Nice, nice.
I think being one set at 155 on the scale, and then coming to fight me at what the fuck was the point of the weight cut? What's the point of hitting the scale at that if you're gonna fight at a buck 65 anyways? So it's like they're all doing this to be light on the scale, but then be heavy in the thing.
Yeah,
But
but
I
it's
think
almost
that's
like cheating. It's almost like fucking cheating,
try
right? So
as
there's like
well.
a
You're
little
trying to
fine
get any
line
advantage.
there.
Yeah, any advantage
But
you
like,
can get, right? Like
here, I'll lose 30 pounds. I'll eat a fucking sandwich and have a drink, and I'll gain 20 back, and then I'll knock your ass out at a fucking. Do you really feel like that's what I was asking? Sorry, I wanted to direct towards Dean. Like, for statistics wise, is the heavier guy that loses the weight to go into the division at an advantage rather than the lighter guy trying to gain the weight?
I think like Moose was saying, that's the idea, but I don't see it that way. I think
Mhm.
it's gotta be. I mean, they say that's the fighter's first fight. It's the day before the actual fight when they have to make weight on the scale, and that's not how it should be. You know, I like this dude Charles Oliveira right here, but he's one of these guys that they consider a weight bully, is what they call it, right? Like he probably should be fighting at welterweight at 170. So I think it would typically be the guy that didn't have to put his body through traumatic events. And I've actually got a uh couple bad weight cuts here that I can read off. There's 10 here, but I'll just do the 6. I just want to like get your reaction to this. So this guy Glycin Tibau, I haven't heard of him to be honest.
Gleison Tebow, that's an old school brother right there. Gleison Tebow, that's an old band.
Okay,
Yeah.
66 pounds from fight camp and 17 pounds in one day. This
Jeez.
Fuck out of here.
Yeah,
Um, moving up a little bit here, Paul Felder,
Dina.
24 pounds for Paul Felder in 5 days. Chris Cyborg, this is a wild one. I think she fights at bantamweight, which is 135. She lost 25 pounds in 4 days.
She was bad, right? We've probably all seen the videos for her shaking and crying in the
Shaking
bathtub.
in the bathtub, bro. Yeah,
It's
dying.
scary, man. Conor McGregor, 27 pounds in 8 days. That's pretty considerable for a 145 pounder.
And he used to look like a skeleton on that scale, remember?
yeah.
Yeah.
Wait until the number
Yeah.
one. This is
Remember that?
number 2 here. Chris Weidman, 32 pounds in 10 days and 20 pounds in one day.
That's the wrestler right there, baby.
Yeah, but check this out, dude. Paulo Costa, 40 pounds in 19 days.
Whoa.
That's
And
wild.
Costa's a big boy, too. That's crazy, man. That's fucking crazy.
And to Ryan's point earlier, what he was bringing up, the several weight classes, it's like that in boxing. You might have been looking at the boxing weight classes because there's like welterweight, light welterweight. In MMA, there's straw weight for women. Some of them do atom weight, which is 105. But like just to keep it super simple, there's 105 for women, 115 for women, 125 for women. Unfortunately, there's a 135 that's not really the best talent at that class. I think they should do a heavyweight women's class. I think it'd be
Hell
awesome
yeah.
to see
Hell
two
yeah.
60-pound women fighting.
Oh, that'd be good.
But then for men's, you do 135, 145, 155, 170, 185, 205, and then up to 260 for heavyweight. So there should be more weight classes, in my opinion, man. Just to get these guys a little bit more on. And I think that they should make it to where you can't cut more than 5% of your body weight, because if you put it at 10 pounds, 10 pounds is a hell of a lot more for a 125 pounder than a 260 pounder, right? And I think they should also weigh them as they're stepping into the freaking octagon. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's like the main solution.
yeah. I mean, because it's just unnecessary stress on a body. The water barrier to your brain or whatever it is, like that's severely cut down. I was trying to find some images of some of these guys, like freaking Josh Emmett, man, looked like Skeletor.
Skeletor, dude, him like legendary. You see these guys touch this, and then they have no. They look like a guy you let starve in one of these medieval movies. They're like, this guy's just been hung up against the fucking wall for a month. No one fed him, and then they bounce back on the fight, and they look as thick as Ryan Dean, buddy. You're like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, dude, and what's interesting here is that you get Alex Pereira, somebody that goes out there and fought, Israel Adesanya, weighs in at 185, and like 2 hours later, he's back up to 200 pounds, and then on fight night, he's 220. That doesn't really make sense.
And no one would do these cuts if you were walking on, like you had to hit the scale, then hit the ring. Like, you know what I mean? You're not going to put yourself through a 55-pound cut if you can't bounce back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, right. It's fucking stupid. I don't like people fighting far out of their natural weight. I don't like the concept of weight bullies anyways. I think it's stupid. I think they need to open up the division more for, oh my goodness, different different weight classes. Can you guys give me a second? Hold on. Someone's at the door. Forgive me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
Luke,
guys,
I think Luke's got to go. Yeah.
Yeah, so Ryan, Dean, nice meeting you, buddy.
Great to meet you.
This was a really good podcast. Ryan, or sorry, Dean, that info you said that you do all your blogging and stuff and you write the bios is can we put that, Ryan Alexander, can we put that into the podcast here where people can find that?
Yeah,
Like
of
that?
course. It's going to be in the description.
Okay, because I'd like to read some of that, man. That's awesome. And very nice meeting you, and I hope to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to meet you too, Luke. And then for you specifically, if you wanted to check it out, you can go to bkfc.com and you can subscribe, but you don't have to pay for anything. Just make sure that you click the box where you get like the emails that we send out, and then you'll get that letter yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Hope you both have a good day.
You're in Arizona?
Yeah.
That's
There's
right.
Tucson, Arizona, man. Pretty far from you. This weather's a lot different here.
Yeah. Honestly, like we were talking. I forgot about this thought, but we were talking about when Luke was saying, like he's like, if I was rich overnight, like I don't know if I'd come back here. I'm like, I would go back to teaching jujitsu in a heartbeat. You just have to be somewhere warmer. It's like, yo, I can't deal with this goddamn cold. I'm over it.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's some great gyms down here in the States, like freaking
Amazing.
in Phoenix. You got like the MMA Lab, Fight Ready, things like that. Those are great gyms, specifically here in a hot climate. So it's nice.
That's the goal, man. To get out of the cold and do the same thing.
Yeah, hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get to do that.
Yeah, hopefully.
What class do you fight at when you fight?
Well, I haven't like been in an MMA fight in a few years, but I was fighting at 155, and I
Okay.
walk around at like 175. So I was doing a 20-pound cut. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So that's why I know it's fucking terrible for you, and I know how much it sucks. I'm like, yo, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm like, it's stupid. I rather the cut be, if it's a couple pounds, I'll do it. If I'm close to the weight class, that's fine. But drastic cuts are so hard on the body, man. It's shit. Like sweating out, like till your fucking insides hurt. Do you know what I mean? Like it's tough. It's a tough thing to do, and it's a stupid thing to put yourself through. Considering you're about to put yourself through a war, anyways.
Yeah,
You know what I
like,
mean?
someone just beat me up instead of this.
I'm a
But
huge fan of hydration, guys. I mean, this is one of the most important things. I sell vitamins and minerals, but if you dehydrate yourself, you're still gonna have a problem, to be honest.
And to that point, they kind of banned like IV rehydration, so you're not allowed to rehydrate yourself with an IV drip, which is like if you're gonna be okay with these guys doing these fucking wild cuts and not be okay with them rehydrating. You got to, I don't know, man. They have to solve that problem. I think one has a good solution to it. One has, let me look up their weight cutting rules. One has a very specific weight cutting policy that's actually
One has a good system, man. Like
Yeah.
it's not as the fights can be very entertaining, like especially these Muay Thai competitions are great. But yeah, man, there's something about the UFC that just has always hit different. And I think the logic behind not allowing the IV is that the weight cuts would be worse. Like the people would know that they could rehydrate with that, so they would just go balls to the wall with the weight cut.
Yeah, but I mean, they're doing it regardless. They're doing the balls to the wall weight cut, whether their IV's allowed or not. I think if you're gonna let them do that, and they do the hydration test, like I'm looking it up here, these guys make them do the hydration test, and if they don't have enough water in them, you can't fight. So you have to be within 5%, or if they catch the athlete within 5% of the official, like, so I gotta read
The
these.
system's not perfect either. I know MMA On Point, the YouTube channel, they did a pretty good deep dive on the subject, and I think their final conclusion was that this is kind of the best that we've got right now, but it is still flawed. It's not perfect. And this is one of the last topics that I want to touch on here as well. I want to touch on nutrition very, very quickly. I'm not going to go too deep dive, but I also want to talk about steroids because there's a similar problem where the technology for avoiding detection, seems to be always a step ahead of the detection. So just like this hydration thing, I think there will be ways to game it. And those ways will probably end up being even more harmful for the person because it will be some kind of chemical injection that will trick the system or something like that. So get your opinion here. Me, steroids, thinking about steroids, as a spectator. And, I want everybody to be healthy. I don't want to see anybody get too hurt, right? We want entertainment. It's not out here cheering for blood necessarily, unless the guy's a real jerk. But I kind of always felt that steroids in sports does make it more entertaining. I know that's not the polite position to take, but these guys are in girls, they're making this commitment to sort of be freaks in some way. And since you really can't completely prevent it, at least not now, we don't have the technology to completely prevent steroid use. So they keep coming up with new substances that are harder and harder to detect. And it's just going to be a never ending cat and mouse game. Those who choose not to do the steroids or to do the performance enhancing drugs, PEDs, they're at an inherent disadvantage. And to me, it's again a politically incorrect opinion, but I mean, if everyone does steroids, then it's an equal playing field, right? What do you guys think about this?
I dig I dig it. I like people on the sauce. I like fucking TRT Vitor. I thought that was fun. I'm signed up for the devastation.
You guys are gonna love Peter Thiel's new Olympics. Have you heard of those?
Yes, I have the steroid Olympics. That's rad.
Yeah. Like what it's seeing like how far science can push the human body. So everything's allowed, and I think it's going to be interesting. It should be kept separate though, because some people don't want to do steroids, right? But it's undeniable that there's definitely some people that are in the UFC right now that use steroids, right? Paulo Costa's really leaned into it as a joke because he has incredible physique. And ironically, it's a lot of Brazilians. It's a ton of Brazilians that are just built weird. Like it's just freakishly, I don't know if it's that acai or whatever they're
It's
doing.
the Brazilian supplements, baby. You can get like Mexico, Brazil, all these places you can go. Like, there's a lot of places you can get over the counter steroids. Like, I thought it was really funny when I was traveling in Mexico and all the pharmacies would have like these cutouts of jack dudes on them. And they're like steroids inside. Testosterone. So it's like it's available in these places over the counter. So why would I not hop on gear if it was an option? And especially if you could cycle off, because like the tests are like there's Olympians that are on steroids, right? Like you could cheat that system. They test hard. You could just be off cycle, have your shit ready because you know when the tests are coming for the most part. Like USADA's gone now too. So they're gonna have those scheduled testing. Like with USADA, when they were just showing up to people's gyms and they were like hiding underneath the rings and trying to run from them. Like I feel like the surprise tests are like the only way you can nab people on steroids. Because unless it's if you're giving them dates, like you have to compete in a cup today, I'm passing that test. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't give people that option. You guys seen Icarus?
No.
No.
There's a documentary about the Russian Olympic team and their doping scandal, and they got the doctor who was giving them the steroids, and he's like, the guy's like, oh, I want to. He's like, he wanted to be a cyclist like Lance Armstrong, and the guy's sending his urine back to this guy frozen. And he's like, okay, you need to be doing this, this, and this to pass your test. And this guy gives you like the formula to literally pass any piss test. So
now that you say that, yeah.
yeah. So if a scientist can make it, a scientist can break it. You know
Sure.
what I mean? So if you know how it works, you know how to beat it. Obviously, most fighters aren't capable of that on their own. You need somebody with that background, but there's ways if you are researching and know what you're doing to beat these piss tests. So I don't know.
I want to say too, from the health perspective, this makes it much less healthy. I said earlier, there's risks to everything, sure, but I know definitely from experience, both men and women who have done basically any form of steroids, whether it's HRT for women or, TRT for men, or it's actual anabolic steroids, it can be very difficult to help them with whatever they have. And I don't know the whole biological mechanism of why that's so, but I do know that by and large, those people are much, much harder to help with, methods that normally work quite well with anybody else. So I do want to touch on nutrition very briefly, and then I have a secret thing for you guys at the very end. Made everybody wait for my secret factor that nobody knows about, and I didn't know about until recently. So, Moose, you were complaining about being injured. You're injured right now, correct?
Yes.
And what did I tell you on the phone?
Gelatin.
3 tablespoons of gelatin per day.
Yeah.
Because the heaviest thing in our body is muscle. It's not bones. The heaviest thing is muscle. So we need to eat protein to build our protein, right? The second heaviest thing is connective tissue. right? Not just our skin, but the stuff that holds together everything, holds together joints. Obviously, joint problems are big. Even in the gym, we saw this all the time. Rotator cuffs being pulled and all this stuff. We don't blame soccer for these injuries. We don't blame weightlifting for these injuries. We don't blame fighting for these injuries in the majority of cases, because we see this in kids and stuff. It's not like they're doing high level aggressive competition. They're just torn their rotator cuff. Why? Because as a culture, we screwed up big time where we eat meat, muscle. That's what we call meat. It's muscle. Whereas every other culture in the world, in the history of the world, all the primitive cultures, all the longest of cultures, all objectively the healthiest cultures, consume the whole animal, as much of it as possible. They consume the bones, they consume the stomach lining, they consume the blood, they consume the connective tissue, right? And again, we need to eat muscle, or so we need to eat protein to build our muscle, but we also need to consume connective tissue. And so most of us did not grow up doing that. And so we're behind 10, 20, 30, 50 years behind on connective tissue. So that's actually the most likely thing to break for many people. Those same nutrients are also involved in bones. And again, I'm not going in the full spiel here, but we don't have enough nutrients in the soil. There's not enough minerals in the soil. We screwed up our way of agriculture, and the longest of populations have all these other ways of getting minerals into their soil. You can see other episodes for more details on that. And you can always reach out to us, by the way, for our health advice. The link is in the description. You can contact any of our coaches. We'll give you a protocol for free, including supplement recommendations and food recommendations and anything that's relevant to you. But a lot of athletes do know this, to be honest. And a lot of them are under contract, by the way, and they're not really even allowed to talk about what they do take. And that's especially in the big leagues like basketball and baseball, where a lot of them, the contracts are different, but for the most part, they're kind of signed with Gatorade or whoever to off the bat. So, they might actually have a Gatorade bottle and there might be something different in it. And they're not actually allowed to talk about what they do take unless, again, leagues are different, but some cases, for example, we have a product that we designed, not me, but the company designed for Theo Ratliff, the basketball player, because that was a loophole in the contract, that if the product wasn't made with him, his face is on it, the product was made for him specifically to promote, they can't promote it. So I actually know, I've talked to baseball players and football players and stuff that are on our products. It's the truth. There's a lot of professional athletes that are on our products and they're not allowed to talk about it. Or the other bunch of products, they take a lot of supplements. I'm just saying. So a lot of them do know this. They do understand there's not enough food in the food. There's not enough nutrients in the food supply, no matter what you eat, whether you're vegan or carnivore or something in between. It's physically impossible for you to get enough nutrients in our food supply the way it is. And it would also be incredibly impractical to mimic the primitive populations who do, with their sort of homesteading lifestyle, they do get more nutrients into their food. And you have to live in special places that actually have all the minerals there to begin with, which is rare. So most of us here listening are not in those circumstances. We do need supplements. Many athletes do understand this. Many of them don't understand the intricacies of it. But a lot of athletes have come onto our program. This is even before me. This is like, there was many people in these big leagues on our products way before I stepped onto the scene. And I'm told, again, in private conversations that I'm not even allowed to name names, that it is quite widespread that they do understand this. But I know that there's lots of people getting into sports in the first place, because we deal with a lot of young athletes who are injured who don't know this. You got to get to the big leagues to learn these sort of secrets, and it shouldn't be secret. We spend my whole career is about giving people this information, just letting you know everything that's in your blood is also in your sweat. The more you sweat, the more nutrients you lose. Athlete loses more nutrients than a couch potato. Therefore, you are at more risk for a nutritional deficiency disease if you're an athlete than a couch potato, right? Exercise has its own benefits, but it also makes you lose more nutrients. And some very well-known things like athlete's heart or cardiomyopathy heart attack, right? People are asking, why are all these athletes dropping dead in recent years? Is it just because of the jab thing? That's part of it. You put poison in the body, it depletes certain nutrients, especially selenium. So cardiomyopathy heart attack, athlete's heart, enlarged heart, they might call it a genetic heart condition. I made a video on this a long time ago too. Athletes in this was well explained before the pandemic, before the jab thing, especially selenium and some other key nutrients can cause you to have congestive heart failure or cardiomyopathy heart attack, etc. Just saying that if you are choosing to be an athlete, especially a combat athlete, anything that beats your body up, because swimming is much less hard on your body than running, right? Or football or anything like that. You need a lot more nutrition. Or you are at risk. You could die of heat stroke without salt, right? Just like you didn't have enough salt. It's just one simple nutrient. Just saying, just putting it out there that yes, part of the reason it does beat our body up is because it is actually hard on the body, first of all. And second of all, it's because we do not replenish the required nutrients, especially in the connective tissue category and especially in the mineral category, the bone mineral category. I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm not going into a full nutritional lecture here, but we see a lot of 16-year-olds with torn rotator cuffs, and it wasn't because of the bench press. The bench press did not cause it. The connective tissue deficiency caused it. The fact that they were not raised consuming connective tissue like every other culture prior to us did.
So what is this stuff about the gelatin that improves this?
Gelatin is ground up joints. In fact,
There's ground up bones
before
and joints. Yeah.
our company, long before I stepped on the scene, we didn't have supplements. Dr. Wallach, who I represent, is a big part of the reason why modern supplements actually are the way they are. Supplements didn't truly exist. He went to college eating dog food. And this guy's story, he had Tourette syndrome and some other musculoskeletal syndromes and stuff. And he figured out that cramps had something to do with calcium deficiency. He lived on a farm, so he just started eating calf pellets for the cows instead of his breakfast cereal, and that fixed his problem, or most of it. It made him a lot better. And then there was no supplement industry back then. We're talking about the 1940s, 50s, 60s. So he was eating dog food through college, and practically invented many of the modern methods that we use to make good supplements. But prior to that, this is the late 80s, early 90s, all we had was plant-derived minerals from a source in Utah, ancient sea moss, basically on top of a mountain in Utah. So it was flooded with a sea at some point in Utah. And anyways, so we had these minerals, you had gelatin, and calcium-enriched Minute Maid orange juice. This is before we had any complicated supplements. That was the program. And that program got very, very, very good results. So yeah, gelatin, I mean, a lot of people consider it like a waste product. I mean, it's not. I mean, again, we're mostly muscle by weight, but then we're also, second off, connective tissue. And most of us are not protein deficient at all, by any means. If anything, protein is highly overrated. We do need protein, but we do not need 2 grams per pound or whatever insane number. I'm much more of the opinion it's like a third of a gram or a half of a gram per pound per day is what we actually need in protein. And many people who are not athletes are consuming way more than that. We're not protein deficient. Even these vegans are arguing about it. We get plenty of protein. If anything, you all get way too much protein. It's not that important. It's important, but you'll die without it, but it's not that important. So we need connective tissue. So I'm just saying, even before we had complex supplements, we were getting results with gelatin. And that's still to this day, it's one of the most important problems that we deal with are various connective tissue deficiencies, not just torn joints and stuff, but also things like aneurysms, right? That same connective tissue holds veins together. You've got an inner skin called your fascia, right? That holds all your organs in place and everything. Like, it's connective tissue. It's all connective tissue. You hear plantar fasciitis and stuff, right? Pain in the fascia. It's a lack of connective tissue. Tons of these problems. And these could kill you in the case of an aneurysm. To be honest, my brother died of something in kind of like this. It wasn't exactly a burst aneurysm, but it was a connective. It was one of the valves on the heart that was leaking. Basically, it's a connective tissue problem. It needs minerals to do that too, but gelatin is the simplest thing that you could consume to support your own connective tissue. It is connective tissue, right? If you eat a cow brain, it supports your brain. It has all the nutrients in it for your brain. If you eat a liver, it gives you the nutrients that you need for your liver, right? It's eyes, right? They call this like treats like. It's an ancient principle in, so-called alternative medicine, but this is the same thing. You got to eat connective tissue to build your own connective tissue.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. So not to harp on this because I know we're trying to wrap up, but do you just take you put it in water?
Yep.
I was gonna ask the same fucking thing, so don't even worry about it. Because I was like, how exactly do you prepare your gelatin? Do you have the Jello, or do you just like?
And this is not the Jello brand, I'm assuming. We're talking about powdered, like
Jello is just gelatin plus sugar and food dye, right? And
okay.
a little bit of artificial flavors. You can make your own gelatin. You can make your own Jello, which is gelatin and. I mean, I use supplements. I have the supplements. You can make supplement Jello. This is one of the ways we actually teach some parents to trick their kids to get supplements into them. Whip it up with some gelatin, turn it into Jello. They won't even know the difference. But yeah, Jello itself, the brand is trash. It's just sugar.
That's what I'm saying.
Sugar and artificial flavor.
Do you allow it to settle, or do you just drink it while it's still like you throw the powder in the water and then just chug it?
We do both. I mean, I live with a chef half the time, and he'll do those things. I'm very lazy. I'll just throw it in a glass, but I'm actually I'll just take the supplements, to be honest.
Got it.
Honestly, the price of gelatin has gone up a fair bit. So if you're paying $2 a sachet, then the supplement's actually probably going to be a better deal. And you can get the concentrated version of that. You take it in a capsule, or of course, right now, collagen peptides are very, very popular.
I was gonna ask the same thing.
Same concept.
Yeah.
It's sulfur compounds, basically, right? Gelatin is just literal joints that are ground up. So it's got everything that the joint is made of in it. But again, there are concentrated parts of it, like glucosamine sulfate, chondroitin sulfate, right? MSM, the S stands for sulfur. These are sulfur compounds.
I'm
Not
curious.
the only.
Are you familiar with the product that they're pushing for injury? The BCP 157?
BCP.
157?
Oh, I haven't heard of it. Are you talking about BPC?
BPC, BPC, BC, yeah, BPC probably.
Ethanol antagonist. This is banned. It's not a steroid, it's a peptide.
It's a peptide. All peptides are illegal until but in Canada they're not
Collagen
illegal.
peptides are not illegal.
Well, they are for sale but until you put the distillate. So the peptide itself isn't illegal, but it is once you put the distillated water in it. So you can't anything that's ready for injection can't be sold.
Collagen peptides you can just drink them. Okay, so
I
this
know,
is
but
a
I'm talking about
synthetic peptide. That's why it's banned.
Yeah, they're
That's why it's
synthetic peptides. So they're like peptides in a vial, and then you kind of bring them back with antibacterial static water, and you mix them up like you would any injection. And then athletes have been using this quite recently, and they say it's like I don't know the science behind it. Like I don't know what it is. I haven't really looked into it, but I've heard it being tossed around quite often in the jiu-jitsu circles lately.
Well, I've also seen one here saying it's a naturally occurring peptide made of 15 amino acids derived from human gastric juices. Okay, so I mean, we need 12 amino acids. Some might say 9, but there's like 3 of them that are conditionally essential, so we just call it 12. Either way, there's more amino acids that are not necessarily essential. You could take amino acids. This is not a huge deal. I mean, this is actually the easiest part of a supplement program to cover. I know a lot of people, this is kind of an industry gimmick to answer your question. Like BCAAs, to me, are not necessary. You don't need to really crank up the doses of the amino acids. Some people might argue with that. Sure, you can try it. There shouldn't be a harm. And it's not illegal to take collagen peptides. These are part of the human body. You won't be able to detect it. So if it's synthetic, I wouldn't do it because it's not necessary. We have amino acid complexes and concentrates. And to be honest, just like I said, almost no one's protein deficient unless you have done chemotherapy or you're an old person that's not eating or something or you're anorexic. Not really many people are protein deficient. So proteins are made of amino acids. So therefore, you're not amino acid deficient either. Especially with a varied omnivorous diet, it's quite easy to cover all your amino acids. It's actually not the important part of our program, right? It is part of the 90 essential nutrients, but it's not the key. You know, if you're only taking amino acids, you're missing the more important stuff that's not in the food because the amino acids actually are in the food. I do believe you can get enough from eating. We put some in our products as well just to make it a complete, just so we can say it has all 90 essential nutrients in it, but it's not actually necessary to supplement with. The only thing that we should be doing more of in this category is stuff like the peptides or the glucosamine or the gelatin itself. And even our glucosamine product has gelatin in it. It's part of the formula. It's also got manganese in it because you need that to put it in the bones. And it's the minerals that make it work, really. But the gelatin itself can just be consumed. And in many cases, it is still cheap. But the price of gelatin has gone up quite a lot. So comparing it to supplements, sometimes the supplements actually win. You can check out the prices, but either way, to me, it doesn't matter. Giving you advice as a friend is the same advice that I would give to a client. I'm selling the nutrients. I don't really care where you get your connective tissue. We have some great products too, but if you just want to buy the gelatin, I know it doesn't matter, but it's going to help you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Cool.
Yeah, and another question.
Everyone should do that, by the way, not if you're just an athlete. All right, and while we're on the topic of athletic performance, we're going to take a little break. I'll be quick. I'm going to tell you about hydrogen water. You've probably already heard some about hydrogen water from me or elsewhere on the internet. It's becoming a bit of a fad right now, but I think it's a fad for a good reason. Because there are thousands of studies, literally over 2,000 double-blind studies showing various benefits of hydrogen water. And I have signed a marketing agreement with the Zontos Water Company. I do believe and I think they can prove that they have the best machine on the market. We've made a few other episodes here with the founder of the Zontos company, and I've put a couple of videos on YouTube where we talk about the pros and cons of different types of machines. And the short story is, the portable water machines, you're going to see them. They look like they're a great deal, but you can test them. We've tested them. They do not perform over time. I'm talking about weeks, maybe months. The hydrogen capsules are basically made of magnesium, which you can't take that much magnesium. You'll have diarrhea. That's the problem with the pills. In an emergency situation, it would be worth it to get a portable machine or use the pills, but for long-term, stable performance, I recommend the Zontos water machine. And since it is becoming popular, I've been getting pitched on other companies, so I actually just want to share a document that another company sent me to promote their hydrogen water machine. Now, this document's only claiming over 500 peer-reviewed articles, but that's very good still. They've got a whole bunch of different categories here: immune system health, COVID, hormone health, healthy inflammatory response, and acting as an antioxidant, because the hydrogen water basically bonds with hydroxyl radicals in the body. Hydroxyl, OH negative. They're said to be one of the most, if not the most, reactive of the free radicals. Reactive oxygen species, ROS. You probably hear that term. So there's many different types of free radicals, and the hydroxyl radical is very radical. So the hydrogen, the extra hydrogen that's in the water, bonds with that OH and turns it into H2O. So you actually get a twofold benefit. One, it neutralizes the hydroxyl. Two, it creates water on that spot. If that's in a cell or in your blood, or it creates water. Pretty interesting. And I've read a bunch of these studies, and a lot of them actually show also a benefit in the control group, which is interesting, because this is showing that a lot of these people weren't drinking enough water to begin with. So dehydration by itself is a very, very important problem in our society. And yeah, a lot of these people in the control group, they ended up drinking more water than they normally would, and they still got a benefit. But the hydrogen water group invariably gets a better benefit. That's why people are so hyped up about hydrogen water. And elite athletes know this, by the way, just like they know about the vitamins and minerals. The amateur athletes and, your buddy who trains jujitsu down at the local gym, he probably doesn't know these more advanced concepts. And this is not just about health, this is also about performance. Continuing on here, this document's got more studies on asthma, allergic inflammation, COPD or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, gut health and digestive enzyme production, cardiovascular health and disease treatment. Well, hey, that's important for athletes by itself, cardiovascular health, heart protection, liver health enhancement. Honestly, basically any category of health you can name, there's studies out there showing that hydrogen water has a benefit for it. Hearing loss, eye protection, allergies, skin health, diabetes, weight management, metabolic, cancer, big one, hypertension or high blood pressure. Here we go. Athletic muscle performance. Hydrogen water has exhibited potential in reducing lactic acid buildup. So, you get sore after you work out, it's lactic acid buildup. So this reduces lactic acid buildup, decreasing muscle fatigue during exercise, and potentially aiding muscle wasting diseases. They've got 4 studies here in this document in this category. First one's from 2012. I'm not going to read you the whole thing. Just the conclusion, once again, says adequate hydration with hydrogen-rich water pre-exercise, before exercise, reduced blood lactate levels, and improved exercise-induced decline of muscle function. Second study here from 2017. The conclusion is 2 weeks of hydrogen-rich water intake may help to maintain PPO, which is peak power output, in repetitive sprints to exhaustion over 30 minutes. So it helps you maintain your peak power output. Third study here from 2014. Preliminary results support the hypothesis that the addition of hydrogen to traditional treatment protocols is potentially effective in the treatment of soft tissue injuries in male professional athletes. Right? It's not just consuming connective tissue and minerals that could help your connective tissue. Here, they're saying hydrogen water is potentially effective in the treatment of soft tissue injuries. And the fourth study from 2017. This one was a pretty interesting one. We report that ad libitum, means as much as they want, administration of supersaturated hydrogen water to mice prevented abnormal body mass gain and improved spontaneous and forced exercises. Hydrogen-treated mice showed higher spontaneous activities up to age 12 weeks. And there's some more complicated stuff in this study. It's pretty interesting. But I'm not going into all the details here. Just letting you know that if you are interested in any of this, I highly recommend that you look into it. There's other benefits here, anti-inflammatory properties, mood disorders, antioxidant and brain protection. I really do think that this is the next level. I'm very happy with my machine, especially as I've been looking at other machines that people are presenting to me. I actually feel it's a great deal. The price tag is a little bit heavy. It's about $4,500 for this type of machine. But believe it or not, that's nowhere near the most expensive machines. And I've been comparing ones in the same price range, and the Santos specs, the ppm, the amount of hydrogen that's actually in the water, the half-life, the time that it actually stays in the water, and the performance long term just crushes the competition, to be honest. It was a big step for me, and if you are considering taking such a big step yourself, I highly recommend that you buy the right product. Look into hydrogen water yourself, tons of interesting stuff about it, and check out zontoswater.com. It's in the description as well. If you want what I believe is the best machine on the market, and I think they can prove it. And now we can get back to the episode.
Another question: how do you find like what foods would you naturally be consuming peptides in, or is there foods, or would it be other sources? Like what exactly? Because
The
you said it
actual
was
joints.
the
Actual joints,
actual
right?
joints is from peptides as well, but you said it was sulfur based.
Well, sulfur is part of
Your bones,
muscles
yeah,
and joints,
in
yeah.
joints, yeah,
So
yeah.
remember when we were in the gym, I remember like LL Cool J being on the cover of men's magazines and stuff, and he was pushing the boneless, skinless chicken breast and broccoli, right? That was like
That's the cover up for steroids.
well, what?
That
The cover
that's
up?
yeah, dude. Any okay, look, every freaking every Hollywood, you can run the tapes on this. Anytime a guy does gear to get in to be in a movie, they'll do an interview and they say this exact line. I ate chicken breast, rice, and broccoli. These are this like that's all they consumed. They
Okay.
negate the fact that so if you hear anybody that is a celebrity, this is my conspiracy theory. You can throw
Okay.
this in it. Any time you hear a celebrity say, a lot of chicken, broccoli, and rice, you're on gear with a professional trainer and chef, and they were cooking for you. What like you don't need to eat just broccoli, chicken, and rice to get jacked. You can consume protein and proper carbohydrates through a bunch of different meals. And they're not stupid to that, but they always like you get a script, bro. How many times have you heard the same bullshit out of health magazines and fitness, especially
Okay.
with body? So it's
I
like,
see what you're saying here. Okay. Well, my point that I was making is chicken breast, like buying boneless, skinless chicken breast is the stupidest thing you can do. You're best off to buy the entire animal, and you're best off, honestly, even to kill the animal yourself, so that because you can probably only buy the liver, maybe the hearts, maybe the kidneys, if you're talking about chicken, in the grocery store. Liver is becoming very common, but it's interesting that they take a lot of these byproducts, so-called, and they sell them to pet foods, because pet foods by law have to have more nutrients in it than baby foods and human foods, right? So I'm trying to get blood to make blood stew, which is a Filipino dish, and they also do it in Italy and Portugal and Spain and other places as well. It's one of the most nutritious substances there is blood. And if you never had blood stew or dinuguan or chocolate meat, these are all different words, same dish, you're missing out. Go to a Filipino restaurant and try it, dinuguan. It's the most amazing thing ever. I'm just saying that they sell a lot of these byproducts to pet food companies because they know they need to give these pets more nutrients. And this is where you get it. You get it from the so-called byproducts, right? You get people saying, "Oh, I don't want to feed my dog food because they put all these byproducts in it." Well, those byproducts, that's the joints, that's the organs, that's the brains, that's the eyes, that's the blood, that's all the most valuable parts of the animal. Eating meat by itself, muscle by itself, is stupid. No culture ever did that. No culture ever prioritized the meat. Look at your dog. If it kills a bird, it's going to eat the liver out, right? Look at the lions when they kill the animal. The head lion gets to eat the livers first, the heart first. You know, they get picks on the organs. Look at the Eskimos. They make a kill. They start pulling out the organs and eating them immediately. They're still warm, right? So I'm just saying, boneless, skinless chicken breast is the most worthless part of the animal. It's the most worthless part of the animal. You can eat some meat, but you're going to get more value from the rest of it. And if you buy it with the bones, you eat the skin. The skin and joints are made of the same thing. This is all connective tissue, right? Skin and joints. You can eat the skin. You can eat the ends off the I eat almost the entire bone. right? A whole chicken, you can be finished with just 4 bones that you can't break with your teeth. You can eat the ends and you can eat all the small bones. I love eating the spine. Up north where we live, we got a farm town not too close, not too far. We can buy bags of chicken spines. It's awesome, you know. So you can eat a lot of that with your teeth. Just cook it, eat it. The bones, joints, skin, the jelly that's left over at the bottom of the pan, all of that stuff. And again, parts of the animal that they don't sell, but other cultures do eat, like the stomach lining, like the intestine lining. They do eat that. So they eat the ears, right? The Chinese, they eat the feet. All this stuff is full of connective tissue. Ryan, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, are the feet bones?
Yeah,
Would that be considered bone?
bone and connective tissue. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting, man. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted, but yeah, that's
Probably-
fascinating, man. It
So
makes
just
Probably
so
the
much-
most amount of bones too.
Yeah,
Like
just
our
realize
feet and hands.
culturally, we don't do this. Culturally, we eat muscle meat, which is the most worthless part of the animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they charge
Yeah.
us the most for it.
And it's funny because like it's like everything you said that is good for you sounds so unappealing just because you're like growing up to like, yeah, dude, no,
Yeah.
give me the prime rib. Give me the
Well, I've lived in Chinatown before, that broke me into this, eating feet, eating ears, eating stomach linings and stuff like that. I know. I grew up the same way, right? And now I'm fully into the health world and yeah, I mean, I'm into the blood stew. I'm into the organs for sure. I'm ready to catch my own animals and pull the liver out right there, raw, and eat it raw while it's still warm. Pull the heart out while it's just stopped its last beat. I know that sounds terrible to a lot of people, but a lot of the stuff in our grocery store is absolute trash. And I can only buy liver in my grocery store or chicken hearts and kidneys. I want to eat the brain. I want to eat the eyes. These are concentrated sources of the most important nutrients. And I want to eat the whole skeleton. And I want to drain the blood and keep it
Mm.
and cook with it. It is incredible. I say this sometimes on record. Anybody who hasn't had blood stew, it will literally blow your mind. Honestly, it feels like your brain is being massaged. It feels so good. Seriously.
Yeah, man. You sold me.
All right, you guys ready for my secret here?
let's hear it.
Okay, I'm actually going to share the screen. This is from my friend and colleague, Dr. Reese. He brought something to my attention that I was not aware of. He's talking about Muhammad Ali. So, Muhammad Ali, as we all know, died with Parkinson's. It was pretty sad. And you've got different theories on what exactly happened. A lot of people say it's just from the head trauma. It's debatable, right? But yeah, he was in very rough shape by the time he finished. Now, prior to Dr. Reese, I would have said also nutritional deficiencies, Parkinson's. You need a lot of different nutrients. I just mentioned selenium, all the good fatty nutrients and cholesterol and omega-3. You need all that for your nervous system. And we actually regularly have very, very good success helping people reverse these serious degenerative diseases. It is possible. So I think there's 3 things at play here. First is the trauma. Second is the nutritional deficiencies, which happen to any athlete if they really don't stay on top of it. Third is posture. Dr. Reese is a postural therapist, and he's got an interesting take here. It's 5 minutes. I'd like to watch it.
So, do you know why the great Muhammad Ali had Parkinson's disease? I do. And it's cervical flexion. Let's take a look at his posture real quick. Now, this gentleman right here does have Parkinson's. He has been to the clinic and you can see that his neck is falling out onto his chest. Can you see this? I'd like to see his shoulder.
For the audio people, instead of his neck, the point where the neck meets the shoulders, instead of that being a straight line where he's standing up straight and the fluid can drain from his brain, that's actually a diagonal line on this old man we're looking at who's not Muhammad Ali, but he does have confirmed Parkinson's disease. And I just want to say that since I learned about this, first of all, Dr. Reese fixed my posture because nutrition will not straighten you out. Moose, you probably know. I had stiff man.
Yeah, now
I
I'm
had
thinking about
stiff
my
man
posture. I'm
syndrome.
like, dang it.
I had
Sit up
duck
straight.
feet. I would wear down my shoes on one side, right?
Oh,
Especially
you used to be so awkwardly moving. I remember
I
that.
know.
I remember
was a
watching him
mess.
try to hit a bag. I was like, what is wrong with this guy?
I was a mess. And when I finally fixed myself, because I did, I fixed the childhood arthritis. I fixed the shaking, the twitching, the cramping, the whole stiff man syndrome thing, all that. I fixed it, but it
I didn't know
straighten
that
my
was a
feet out.
syndrome because I just always thought, I'm like, bro, this guy's uncoordinated as shit.
I didn't know the name for it
I
either.
just I honestly remember watching you hit the bag, and I was like, "Yo, you were stiff." That's the funniest thing ever. You look like the Rock'em Sock'ems guys.
Stiff
Like,
man syndrome. My doctor didn't know what to do.
yeah,
He called it childhood arthritis. I'm calling it stiff man syndrome. Classic stiff man syndrome. And I was born with my hips dislocated, right? I don't always talk about that, but as a kid, I don't want to make this stuff public. I'm going to try and hide it the most I could, but I couldn't. I was hunchback. I just had terrible, terrible skeleton, terrible pain all the time. I was scared to fight too. We're talking about fighting. I'm scared to. I broke my arm swinging a golf club, right? Just hitting the ground, and I fractured my arm. I was so weak and frail. It's another thing that happens in fighters too. You got to take those minerals to be strong. And Moose, you remember I was in the pet business too, right? And we'd give the pets the powders, or else our snakes would be born with crooked spines, or the geckos wouldn't make it out of their egg. They wouldn't.
yeah,
Egg tooth
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
form.
yeah, yeah.
I never put two and two together that we give these things these powders. Like, right, yeah, they eat crickets and mice or whatever, but we also put the powder in. If we don't, they will have spinal problems. I just never clicked that. Like, I have spinal problems. I guess I need some magic powders here, right? But anyways, I fixed that. It didn't fix my posture. Dr. Reese gave me some posture exercises. Now my feet point forward, and I'm much more conscious of it. Ryan, I see you sometimes on camera, and we're gonna look at Vince McMahon, and we're gonna look at Muhammad Ali, and I see that this might be the biggest posture problem that there is out there, both hip flexion and this neck cervical flexion. So because it's not draining properly. So he's saying that if the brain can't drain, then you might end up with a neurological disorder, Parkinson's. You might start to literally lose your mind because your brain is sort of being cut off from the blood circulation. This line that he's putting up here for the audio people, it's from the shoulder. That's where his ear is supposed to be. But his ear is like, half a foot forward from that. So this old man is cocked forward. And a lot of fighters have this, a lot of athletes have this, but this is not a problem that's just about athletes. This is a problem. You will see it now. You'll never be able to unsee this. You'll see it on TV, news anchors. You'll see it at people in Walmart. Big problem here. Keep your head up straight.
Here and his ear here. You see this? And we get a lot of people like this, whether they have Parkinson's or they don't. This is a major indicator that someone is going to end up with a brain condition, whether it's Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Lewy body, or chronic migraines even, because the fluid can't drain. Where's the fluid going to go, right? It has to go through a lot of curves and a lot of struggle just to get down to drain, which eventually would come out your kidneys. But when you have a position like this, a posture like this, you're setting yourself up for serious failure. And so I've noticed this on Muhammad Ali, the greatest. Now, we don't have exact posture photos of him, but look at this. This shot is showing that his neck is out in front on his chest. It is not on the top of his shoulders. Now, this photo is not the greatest, so let's, no pun intended, let's look at an older photo of him, and you can see his head is forward. Here's a good one when he was younger. Now, I can see here his thoracic is flexed. That's causing this hump. And then his neck is coming out onto his chest. And he's probably like 30 years old here, 34th, So this stuff starts early. Now, look at this. This is a young Muhammad Ali. Look how far his head is out in front. It is not on his shoulders. So,
P.S. for the audio people, been mentioning this, but I've been posting the video version to YouTube, Rumble, and actually always to Patreon. And the Patreon always gets the video or audio or both. It always gets it posted at least 1 week early, sometimes several weeks early if I'm very on top of things. And I am very on top of things right now. So there's a lot of early episodes on Patreon right now.
May I say something
Yeah.
real quick? To the defense of Muhammad Ali and a lot of people who are boxing and watch this, you're actually supposed to have your shoulder cocked forward in front of you and your chin kind of tucked so that my chin should be kind of meeting my chest, and my shoulder should be a little bit higher when I throw that punch out, so that if you see that here, my chin is covered from this angle here. So you kind of have to maintain a posture that's incorrect.
And I understand that too, but they spend a lot of time outside of the ring. Those pictures we looked at earlier, he's not in his fighting stance. He's outside of the ring. So the problem is he's kept that posture throughout his daily life. And it looks like he kept that posture for decades. And it's no wonder that honestly, even if he had the nutrition, he might still have problems. I'll say quickly that in the health business, the alternative world, many practitioners pride themselves on taking good physical care of themselves. They go out jogging on the beach every morning and all that stuff, and they do know the posture. They are aware of this. But then there's a lot of people like me, and I hate to say it, even Dr. Wallach, who were not physical people. We're computer athletes, and he roamed around the country like a gypsy giving lectures and stuff. It's not a healthy lifestyle, and we did not pay attention to our physique, our physical health. I'm not doing it right now, but I think I'm nearing the end of this period of my life where I'm really hardcore on the computer. And I have been working out just a little bit more. Anyways, I'm paying attention to my posture big time. I drive a lot and be on the computer, and I realize I can't be hunched forward like this. It's bad for me. I have to sit up straight. I have to keep that posture. That's how your muscles set in place, is how you keep your posture, right? So if you are constantly like this, your muscles will adjust and you'll be like that all the time. You have to break out of that. And there's posture exercises you can do to fix that. And of
Are you
course,
lifting again?
I'm going back in. But of course, you can reach out to Peace Over Pain Clinic as well, peaceoverpain.com. They can hook you up with a whole program. Tell them I sent you.
There's not a lot of drainage happening. Here's an older photo of him.
Wow.
Can you see it? Now, I have
Yeah.
a trained eye, so I'm not sure if you see what I see, but that neck is out in front, big time. Here's another one. Neck out in front. Look at the hump in the back. Now, he's hunched over here, but you can still kind of see that neck out in front. Here's a good one. He's in the ring boxing. Look at this. Flat back, hunched. Look at the neck. You can even see the ripples in the neck.
By the way, this lower back is supposed to be arched. So the straight lower back is an indication that you're going to have an upper back problem, actually.
Yeah,
So
you can see the top is arched and the back is straight.
yeah, so his whole spine is off. Look at a skeleton in your classroom, you'll see that it's got that S shape, but it's a gentle S shape. It's supposed to have a gentle curve in the lower back and also a gentle curve in the upper back, not a flat lower, extreme. I know he's in the middle of a fight here, but still, this is the worst type of posture. Flat lower back and extreme curve on the top. And yeah, his neck is 100% fully forward on his chest. It's not even on his shoulders anymore.
It's way out in front. Here's another older Ali. You can kind of see that his neck is out in front. It's very forward, very forward. Here's a good one. You can even see the ripples in the neck. And that's a big indicator that you could just flat out see. This is his chest. His neck is on his chest. We would have had to do a lot of postural therapy with him to change this. Now, here's the closest thing I have to a posture photo of the great Muhammad Ali. And the first thing that jumped out to me is you can see the ripples on the neck. The neck absolutely looks forward from the front. And his head is cocked to the side. So the muscles could have been pulling him to the side too. This is what we call puppy dog posture. You see the ears? They're off. You can also see that his left shoulder is higher than the right. So his posture is definitely off. His right femur is rotated. You can see the knee coming out, and that's what's averting his feet. Very rotated. So he was walking around Earth compromised. But it's really the neck that is the big problem. And I feel this is what was a major contributor to him getting this dis-ease called Parkinson's. Of course, nutritional deficiency could have been involved too, but this posture is a problem. It's a big reason why NFL players are also getting CTE. Because if you have this posture, where's everything going to drain? And if things don't have anywhere to drain, then the blows that he's taking to the head of being punched, it's basically creating bruising in the brain. And without the drainage, it's not able to heal properly. Not to mention the shoulder dysfunction could have created pinched nerves. This is very revealing.
I got one more if you guys want it. It's Vince McMahon. He's bad.
Incredible, man.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Hey, I didn't know about posture before, not until recently.
Yeah, I thought it was mostly like the risks of having bad posture is like the hunchback thing and like bone problems. I didn't realize it would just, it basically
Affect the
just
circulation from your brain to your feet. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, Vince here is a very interesting case as well. It changed his voice. Reese thinks. Let's check it out. It's shorter.
So Vince McMahon has a big time neck disparity.
Look at them tries, dog.
Posture. We saw it this weekend, last weekend with WrestleMania. You can see it right here. Okay.
And to be clear here for the audio too, Vince McMahon is still in good shape, man. He's worked out.
70 something years old. Look
Yeah,
at Diesel, dog.
he's worked out a long time. He's a smart guy and everything, but he is way off here. So you can have all the muscle in the world. If anything,
But he's
that might
got
make-
prison body, bro. Look at them little chicken legs and that big ass. This guy's standing on them little fucking toothpicks, and he's got this rock solid, yard body on top. Like he just did a hard sentence and then never done a squat. So it's like
fair. Well, still, so you can work out all you want. It's not going to fix your posture. You need to actually pay attention to your posture. And you can take the best nutrients in the world, like me, you still have a posture problem. You actually need to fix that with posture exercises.
You can see that he's shorter than Stone Cold Steve Austin here. Okay. That's significant. I'll show you in a little bit, but look at this. That's a thoracic flexion, cervical flexion, and then the top of his cervical is hyperextended back. He must be in quite some discomfort. Now, I know he's a 76-year-old man, but even still, this has to be uncomfortable, very much so. Let's look at, this is where I noticed it. Right here. You can see his head is practically falling off. It's so far forward. Look at this.
His is actually not on his chest. His is in front of his chest. It's more forward than his chest. And he's been doing this for what, 30, 40 years? Probably longer.
yeah, 40, 50 years.
You see it. I mean, that is, that's not comfortable. That's not comfortable at all. Keep in mind, the ears are supposed to be above the shoulders, though. He's just far out. Now he's looking out into the audience. Look at the creases in the back of his neck.
Just like Muhammad had him on the side.
Extension of the top of the cervical coming back.
Those
That's
are permanent
uncomfortable.
wrinkles.
And I did hear that he's had quite a few surgeries. He's a big workout guy. And we see this a lot with weightlifters. Here's another one. Look at this. The thoracic is flexed forward. The cervical is flexed forward. And then the top of the cervical comes back to balance. Because otherwise he'd be looking at the floor. His eyes are here. His eyes should be here. If his neck was on top of his shoulders like it's supposed to. And I could show you something else too. Look, this is Stone Cold and Vince McMahon 25 years ago. You can see that he's about an inch taller than Stone Cold. Stone Cold is 6'1". Vince McMahon was 6'2".
He's fucking 76.
He's shorter.
If you do get discs, that we were just talking about connective tissue, by the way. If you do lose 2, 3, 4 inches, it's because your discs have lost connective tissue. The cushions around each disc in the spine are made of connective tissue. And if those start to lose raw material, they start to compress. Of course, squats don't help this either because it actually physically compresses the spine. But yes, older people do tend to get older. That's why. It's because they're not consuming enough connective tissue. They shouldn't have to get shorter.
Than Stone Cold. That's because his neck is forward. And he probably has some compression in his spine.
If you're an athlete, you have to pay extra attention to this stuff. Couch potato doesn't always have to.
From all that working out. Yeah. This is very significant. And if you've ever seen Vince McMahon many years ago, he's a very tall, strapping man. A workout guy. So it's nice to see that, he still got in the ring and...
Yo, Vince looks better than fucking Stone Cold though.
Vince does look good. Yeah, okay, so
Look at them. I'm just so defensive because in my head I want to be 76 and fucking look like Vince McMahon. I like, come on, bro. It's
So I
like,
think it was actually on podcast that Dr. Reese and I did where he was talking about his voice though, because Vince always had a very powerful voice, right? He's a
he's
powerful figure.
76.
I
Look at the
know,
guy whose
but
voice is
his
Mufasa.
vocal cords are trapped down here in the front. Put your head forward and see how it changes you speak. I hear him speak now. He doesn't sound too good. Right? He can barely, you know.
This is me forward. This is me forward.
Well,
I can hear. Yeah, I can hear a little bit. Shut it off right here. Yeah, right
do it.
here,
Do
here.
it for 40
You're
years.
not lying. Okay, I'll give you that.
So when you
I
start
was like,
to
this is a
hear,
lie.
when
No,
you
it's
start
true.
to hear these gravelly voices, start thinking about this posture thing. Okay, while we're here, I think it's only fair. Let me just give you a 1 minute. I'm gonna give everyone here the easiest posture exercise that they could possibly do.
Good, because the PFL and Bellator fight is cards going on right now.
I-
We've got some
I-
parlays lined up.
I love this exercise. I need to do it all the time because I'm a computer athlete. I sit all the time, and I've got a few extra exercises that I do in my regiment because they gave me a whole routine, and I pick my favorites after I fix my problem just to maintain. But this is the easiest posture exercise that anyone could do, and it feels good too.
Okay, here's what we've got for you. I love this exercise. It's called static back. You're going to lie on your back with your knees bent at a 90-degree angle up and over a block. You can use an ottoman or a chair or couch. You want to make sure that you're in this 90-degree position because it's an anatomically neutral position for the pelvis. It allows the lower back and the shoulders to settle comfortably into the floor. You're going to have your arms out at about maybe a 45-degree or a little bit higher angle with the palms up, and you're just going to relax here. So in this position, you want to focus on your breathing also, breathing through the stomach, just allowing the diaphragm to do the work for you rather than just chest breathing. And you'll notice that as you do that proper breathing, the lower back and the back muscles settle into the floor. So when you first get in this position, there might be a difference between one hip and the other in terms of pressure into the floor, or one shoulder and the other, but we're squaring everything up here. So we're using the floor as a reference point, allowing gravity to settle the back, the hips, all the spinal muscles into the proper postural position. So give this one a try. It's great for you. It's called static back.
So I had actually tweaked my back last year, and the two things that saved my back were doing that and reverse hyperextensions. So between those two exercises that I do daily, I feel like it brought my back to life.
What do you mean reverse hyperextension? What's that mean?
So are you familiar with the hyperextension machine that we would use at the gym, where it would lock your lower body?
Okay, yeah.
So reverse it. Lock your upper body, let your lower body hang, and then you raise your legs. Raise your legs. So I was doing those a lot on just like an ottoman. The same ottoman I'd actually be resting my feet on. I would then turn over and keep my chest on and just kind of hyperextend my legs behind me, right? And then bringing them back to that relaxed position. And funny enough, Louis Simmons, the West Side Barbell guy,
Okay.
he actually invented a machine, which is the reverse hyper machine, and it's patented by them. And they sell a machine where you can just lay on a thing, strap these, essentially put a strap around your ankles, and the strap's connected to a weight, and it hinges. So you're just lifting your feet with more resistance every time. And that saved my back, man. Like that exercise that you just showed, keeping my feet at a 90 and just sitting and letting my back and hips rest, breathing into my tummy and letting it, you feel it, like you feel it, right? It, and then the reverse hypers, I don't know why they help build the muscles strong around your lower back, so it almost starts forcing your posture up correctly.
Even
You know what I'm
interestingly, the posture exercises by themselves actually do strengthen the muscles. Like we can work out and we can target our biceps or whatever, but we all know there's tons of little muscles in there and everything, and it's those ones that are more holding things in place. But it actually can strengthen those muscles just by doing posture exercises. You're not lifting weights here or anything like that. And there's hundreds of posture exercises. That's the one that I'm allowed and I have permission from Reese to give out for free. It's one of the most beneficial. It's 10 minutes at a time, the recommended length. Twice a day is the recommended as well, especially if you sit for a living. But honestly, for anyone could benefit from posture exercises. Lots of people are walking around like Muhammad Ali was, where one shoulder's forward, right? We saw his pictures. One nipple is like 2 inches above the other one. You know, he's jacked. You know, everything is out of alignment, and it's an easy way to put it, well, to start putting it back into place is to use the floor as a reference, so your skeleton just kind of sinks back into straightness.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. It's good information for sure.
Pretty interesting. I wanted to save it to the end.
Yeah, it was neat, different to think about too. And then it's funny how just like it's also these things are chained together. So one thing in your posture is fucked up, fucks up another thing in your posture, and it starts making a chain. Because now, like I think about like my left side is just devastated from my foot to my hip, and I think it started with like I was at a tournament one time, and I was caught in a deep ankle lock, and I looked up at the clock, and I was like, "Oh, you can just rip this motherfucker off. I'm not gonna tap." Like, and he sure enough did, and like I have, and like the the chain starts to make sense. So it's like, okay, left ankle, now left knee, now left hip hurts, and it's like now making its way up the entire body. I'm like, oh, so one broken chain in the posture affected every other post that it's connected to, one after the other. So it's crazy. You think about that in reverse from your brain to your head, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah,
Interesting
that-
stuff.
definitely.
Yeah, great. Good. Awesome, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely do that posture exercise for sure. Because
It's
yeah,
worth it.
myself
I
lean-
see your neck. I see your neck. I was waiting for the day to say something to you, to be honest. Because
Yeah.
it's easy to be on camera like this and we're hunched forward. I have to always pull myself back being on the keyboard. I saw you when you were watching it, you leaned back.
Yeah, dude.
All of us did. Every time you mentioned posture, we were all like,
Yeah, everyone. I think everyone kind of has bad posture,
oh
realistically.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude. We're
Unless
cell
you
phone
pay
people
attention
now.
to
You're
it.
down here.
Yep. Oh yeah, the cell phone's the worst. And I'm a reader too. They sell reading glasses that have mirrors where you can look forward and it points down.
That's psychotic. That's
Yeah.
fucking psychotic.
Hey,
Come on, you're not.
hey. Okay, well, true though. People, I mean, I read in the morning and then I'm usually done. But a lot of people spend a lot of time down on the phone,
Fair,
and
fair.
it's got to be affecting them. It is definitely affecting them in many ways, and posture is just one of those ways that almost no one thinks about.
We're a month away from, and like, or maybe like 2 months away from like the entire world just being strapped into like goggles. Like, you know what I mean? They're like,
It's never gonna work, bro. It's never gonna work. People still can't handle it without
yo,
being dizzy and
it
nauseous.
won't work for us because we were normal human beings. Like the generation gap is quicker and quicker. Lucky
Sure.
people aren't having kids rapidly, but like,
Well, they're not gonna if they they live in virtual reality. But I genuinely think that people, it still seems that way, that we can't handle virtual reality for very long because it makes us too nauseated, and that they can't just out technology that. You can't solve that. This is a basic balance thing that we have, and it throws everybody off.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it's because we didn't grow up with it. You see kids that have like that they can fully function with an iPad at like the age of 1.5. You're like, how's this? What are you doing? Like, and the fact that it's in front of them, like you kind of adapt to that technology, I think. And I feel like even if it isn't now, but maybe a generation or two away, maybe not in our lifetime, but a generation or two away, it's gonna be like full dystopian robot.
Yeah, I'm hoping to
Goggles
live
up.
in the breakaway primitive people that don't accept it.
Underground.
Yeah, you guys ever seen that movie with Bruce Willis called Surrogates?
Yeah,
Where
yeah, sir.
they have these like robot bodies that they live in, and they're like indestructible and stuff, and they just sit in a pod all day. But
Pod,
then
yeah.
there's this other part of society that refuses. It's one of Bruce Willis's last decent movies, to be honest. And the breakaway civilization just wants nothing to do with it. Like they went to the extreme and said, "Nah, no technology at all. I'm just gonna be part of that." Campfire.
Fair enough. Yeah, they're gonna need you over there.
So,
Grind those bones up and turn them into jello. You'll see. You'll see how effective that is.
that's a topic for another day. As we went quite a bit longer than I expected.
Yo, we haven't done one that isn't 3 hours yet. Me and you can't not talk for 3 hours. It's ridiculous.
It's good though. It's good though. Again, a lot of people listen to us at work and on long drives. We've got a lot of truckers and Uber drivers who listen, and they got long days, man. We're here to keep them company, and I think this was entertaining, and it went by quickly. Future topics, I'm putting them in your head right now. Ryan, you're invited anytime you want, man, to be honest.
Hey, this was fun, man. I really appreciate the invite. And it was great to meet your buddies here,
I was
Moose.
about to say, Brian, it was a pleasure meeting you, bro. And I'm going to keep my eye out for you making your way up that ladder, and you're going to be on the ring side at one of them BKFC events. I'm like, hey.
I love it. We'll see, though. We'll see.
We're going to see, buddy. The future's going to be bright for you there. I promise. We're going to see.
Thanks.
So
man.
I would like to do an episode on graffiti, Moose. I was thinking about doing one just by
I
myself.
don't know anything about it.
Yeah, well, I got a lot. We have a lot to talk about with graffiti.
Oh,
we,
yeah.
we could fill 5 hours with that pretty easily,
Fuck.
to be honest. And love and marriage. These are the next two topics that I think ought to be covered.
I'm down to talk about those things.
Yeah. Put 'em in
Except
your head now.
except you know, not too familiar with the marriage aspect. Love have been in, but marriage.
Well,
not so
just
much.
like last week, we had Luke on, who doesn't have any tattoos. We need some balance
Fair
in
enough.
conversation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the two topics that I've got next in line. Any topics you want to talk about, you can let me know as well. And if you guys have any other closing thoughts, go ahead and say them now.
No,
I'm
that was
good.
it.
You got anything,
Yeah.
Moose?
No, that was it. It was a pleasure meeting everybody. If you guys want to check out the gym, 40 Thieves Combat Club on Instagram. And that's it, man. Thank you as always. Appreciate it. It's a fucking blast. I didn't think I could talk for 3 hours, but we did. No problem.
Moose's Club is in Toronto. That information will be in the description. 40 Thieves Combat Club. Ryan Dean from the Dangerous World podcast. Check out his show as well. Check us both out on most Mondays. Ryan's on it like every single Monday on the Monday Night Master Debaters with the Great Deception podcast. I try to be on as much as I can. We have a good time there as well. And his information is going to be in the description, including the league that he actually works for. You can see their newsletter there where he's actually the one that's writing those emails. Basically, if you click to receive the emails, you don't have to pay for it. You click to receive the emails and you'll get the stuff that he does about the fighters in his
Appreciate
league.
that.
It's a newsletter. It's a newsletter, like you said. It keeps people involved in the bare knuckle community, and you got to know what's what and who's who. He will not tell you who to bet on, even if you ask him. We've tried twice. I'm gonna.
Hey, it's so that's the most tempting thing, but like right now, it's not any kind of tempt at all. But dude, I always want to get in there and just throw a little bit down, but I'm like, it's not worth it, man.
Dude, that last one was
It's
all
a career
underdog.
ender.
I honestly, me and my boy here, who was sitting on my couch and we're all gonna watch the fight events. If you had made what BKFC was that? Now I'm talking, but the Mike Perry, that last Mike Perry card, it was all underdogs. It was literally all underdogs. And then I was like, we could have been a millionaire betting on fights if you hit one with all the dogs.
It's a so rare, man. It's a like even betting in UFC and stuff like that. Like it's guaranteed, man. You can freaking snap something just throwing a punch wrong. So
yeah. It's crazy, bro. So it's like I'm not sure if the platform that I bet on will ever take BKFC fights again after that, because they're like, when do all the dogs win? That was a payout night for somebody,
Yeah. It's wild, man. Fun sport, but.
And remember that you can find everything that I do on my website, notusbooks.org. Nothing else there is about combat sports, but it's mostly about health. The books that I've written, the ones that I've helped publish, got hundreds of book reviews there. All of my channels, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, all that stuff. You can find it all on the website, notusbooks.org. And there's also an archive of this podcast there. You can download them for free. And actually, if you listen all the way to the end, there's a special treat. So those of you who are listening on the archive right now, stick around after we sign out. Remember that you can see all these episodes early on Patreon, at least 1 week early. Sometimes, like right now, several weeks early if I'm very on top of things. Got a bunch of episodes there that are not posting for a while. Also some extra content there. Check it out, and we appreciate the support.
Yeah, all right, guys.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure, man. Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate you tons. Appreciate everybody for listening. Stay healthy, my friends. Until next time.
Adios, boys.